Hello and welcome to And the Runner-Up Is. This week on the show, we're talking the 2012 Best Actress race at the Academy Awards, where Jennifer Lawrence won for her performance in Silver Linings Playbook. But why did she beat fellow nominees Jessica Chastain, Emmanuelle Riva, Quvenzhané Wallis, and Naomi Watts? We'll explore all this and more today on And the Runner-Up Is. Hello, and welcome back to And the Runner-Up Is. I'm your host, Kevin Jacobson, here to talk about the 85th year of Best Actress at the Oscars, which covered the films of 2012. We'll be discussing how Jennifer Lawrence won, why the losers lost, and who we think was the runner-up of this Best Actress race. And my guest today is always fun to have on the show because I never know what he's going to say next. You last heard him on the 1975 episode where we discussed Louise Fletcher and Isabelle Adjani and Carol Kane, Glenda Jackson, and most importantly, Anne Margaret in Tommy. Writer, producer, host of the Academy Queens podcast. Welcome back, Joey Gentile.
Well, hi, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm great. We're in the 21st century.
We are, and what an introduction and a reminder of Tommy. So I'm gonna go because that's just bringing me back so much PTSD.
Vietnam.
I have genuinely not thought about Tommy since we've done that episode, and you just brought it all back.
Those beans.
Well, yeah, how you been? You're almost done.
Almost done. Very exciting. Also a little bit sad because I've been doing this since 2021, and it's like, what am I going to be without the show?
What are you going to be when you grow up?
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting. So
it's so rewarding though to get through X amount of seasons because number one, you're like, wow, I did start this a couple years ago. But wow, there's really people don't realize there's so much work that goes into this, from watching all the movies, having to take mental breaks, having to find your own time, your own personal relationships, and then you have so many notes, and it's like when Brandon and I did Academy Queens, I mean, he's been with Seth forever, but he was dating Seth while also dating me for the podcast. So it was like he had two different relationships going, not literally dating, but FYI, but you know what I mean?
Work dating, sure.
Work dating, yeah. And so at a certain point, that's why we were like, okay, if we ever both get tired, we're done. And he got to a point where we're done.
Okay, so, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And so yeah, dude, I'm so proud of you. Genuinely, congratulations. It's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. Seeing the number 85, this is the 85th Best Actress episode is just insane to me. But yeah, very excited to get to the next phase, but
yes,
that will be for another date. We will discuss more on that.
We are all excited to hear what that is. God knows we're all literally on edge. But what a year to have me back. Thank you.
What a year.
Right.
Yes.
Not only you, but I need to shout out somebody right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
One of my favorite things, just interacting with you on the hellscape that is X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, are comments that you get about me from other people who listen, whether it's Patreon or whatever. JC, and I quote, "Also, I'd like to use this space to request another episode with Joey Gentile. It's been over 20 years since his last appearance, and I need more of his delightfully bonkers takes, please." JC, no, thank you for helping me make your dreams come true. I love it. People love me. People hate me. But guess what? People know me.
People have an opinion.
People have an opinion.
Which is better than being, indifferent. So always fun. All right. Well, before we talk 2012, let's get into Best Actress again. Last time you were here, you told me your favorite Best Actress win was Marion Cotillard in La Vie en Rose, a performance I talked about very recently and I also love. Now I'll ask, what is your favorite Best Actress lineup of all time?
Okay. The popular ones we all know, yada, yada, yada.
I didn't come here to get your popular opinion. I need the unpopular one.
Well, you can only say what I mean by that too is you can only say so many times like 1950, 76,
Yes,
and all that. We know
we get it.
that's fine.
Hmm.
Um, one that I actually really enjoy, and again, I just killed another person, is 69, the Maggie Smith win year.
Yeah,
I
love
literally
that year.
tweeted about Maggie Smith. I said, Maggie Smith, ain't she a dame, or is she's great, or something like that. And a week later, she died. And I was like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
Same
but
thing
no,
when we talked about Glenda Jackson, and
seriously,
it's yeah,
seriously.
something's going on here that
And then it's so funny because
it's
people,
dark sided.
right? And then people are like, "Can you tweet about this person?" And I'm like, "I've tried it. It doesn't work that way." But no, 69 is a great year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's such a good lineup. Even like someone like Jane Fonda, who's fifth in that lineup for me, it's not bad. I just like everybody else so much more.
Yeah, sure.
Gene Simmons, the happy ending is so damn good. She's my runner-up that year to Liza Minnelli for the Sterile Cuckoo. But like, there's not a bad one in the bunch. Geneviève
Yeah.
Bujold, Maggie Smith, they're all great. So I would have to say, overall, I think that's my favorite lineup for Best Actress.
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually, that is a very underrated lineup now that I think
yeah,
about it. And I agree that there are no bad performances there. Had a great time talking with Louis Vertel about that lineup. Definitely about Jane in particular as her close personal friend with Jane Fonda.
right, right.
Yeah.
I saw
Yes.
that. I was like, all right, just hold hands
Yes.
in front of everyone.
Yes. But yeah, my other question for you, you told me your most heartbreaking loss was ironically someone who wasn't even nominated, Danielle Deadweiler in Till. Normally I would ask you about, hey, now what's your most heartbreaking snub in this category? But you kind of already answered that. So did you have another, I'm sure you have many other heartbreaking snubs that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I mean, how long do we have?
And these are getting longer and longer, so
You
you
know
have
what?
the floor.
I've noticed that, but I also feel bad because I know what it's like to edit, and I'm like,
Hmm.
wrap it up, Joseph,
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Yep. And you have
Um,
flashing sign behind me.
right, right. The camera says I have to go, like Susan Lucci. No. Um, briefly it was mentioned Alana Hayam for Licorice Pizza because I do love that in general. But can I just say I would actually like to say Lady Gaga and House of Gucci, not because it is a good performance, but if you think about that year, she's the only actress to hit every precursor award. And my heart just kind of breaks because if that was, and then of course you had the flop of the Joker 2 recently. So like if that happened to me back to back, I think I would just quit. I just can't imagine. I mean, there's so much that happens that people don't know about, especially in like campaigning and the behind the scenes and whatnot. So literally to be stat wise, the only person who by statistically should have made it into best actress didn't. And that's heartbreaking. Good
That
performance or
stings.
not, that is heartbreaking. So I would,
Hmm.
yeah, Gaga and House of Gucci.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
Lord knows she worked for it. She was on that campaign trail with her
Seriously.
catchphrases and all kinds of stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Luckily, she does have another career to fall back on. So, I think she'll be
Yeah.
good.
She's like a singer or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't really heard her stuff, but anyway. Yeah, that's such a fun pick as well, and I also often feel bad for the people who get in everywhere and then it's just like, "Oh, but the Oscars no, not so much." Because that
Yep.
is the big one that everyone remembers. So you can get as many nominations as you want. To paraphrase Gaga, there could be,
I
100
yes.
awards that you receive. But
Yep.
if you just don't get that one, kind of sucks.
I was just about to say that too.
Yeah.
You beat me to the joke, Kevin.
Yeah, same wavelength. We'll see if this lasts.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it here.
Mhm.
The 85th Academy Awards Best Actress nominees were Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30, Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook, Emmanuelle Riva in Amour, Quvenzhané Wallis in Beasts of the Southern Wild, and Naomi Watts in The Impossible, with the winner being Jennifer Lawrence, as Jean Dujardin says. All right, so before we break down these performances, what are your overall thoughts on this lineup? Why did you want to do this episode?
So this year is super personal to me for a couple of reasons. First one being like I always like I remember 2010 was the year where I fully made sure to see like everything in theaters, right? And but there was something about 2012 where not only did I make sure to see everything in theaters, but then I made sure to see all the other categories as well. So it was the year that I was fully invested into every category possible.
Wow. You were Oscar
Yeah.
pilled.
Yes, yes. It also is the year that really made me fall in love with independent film because of a certain movie in this lineup. I just think it's beautiful. And again, not that I didn't love this before, but I there's something that I loved about independent films more after Beasts of Southern Wild. I also, it's a celebration year. It's the youngest nominee ever with Quvenzhané Wallis, the oldest nominee ever with Eric Anderson. It's just wonderful all
Wow.
around. Uh,
His
it's like,
ears are ringing somewhere.
right? His hair just stood up. Um, I've already started. We're 10 minutes in. Um, and there's a lot to celebrate here. When we'll get into it, but I mean, it was a super competitive year for more reasons than people think, more than was just on the paper, more than what was just, who was winning what. You had 4 performances in contention, and Naomi Watts was just there celebrating Naomi
Happy to be
Watts.
there.
Right,
Yeah.
happy to be there. And I know that sounds so shady, but it's like I kind of think back to Jennifer Lawrence's SNL monologue, where she's like, Naomi Watts, you know what's impossible? Beating me on Oscar night. And I was like, ooh, but that's the tea.
Yeah.
So, like, truly,
Yeah.
like, honestly, like, it makes me wonder, did Naomi Watts even vote for Naomi Watts? But yeah, no, it's a super great year. And then plus 2, it was the last year that my dear beloved friend Karen was alive and got to vote. And so it's also the last year that I have the tea on what happened. So yeah, it's a great year. What about you? What do you like about it?
Yeah, excited to hear more about this tea. Wow. Yeah, I think this is a really good lineup, and I don't know if this is controversial, but there are no bad performances here. I really, really like this lineup a lot,
Yeah.
and I would have been happy with pretty much any of them winning.
Yep.
I will just give a tease that I am one of those dreaded undecided voters here in this race. I think we, as we talk about them and I talk out my opinions maybe on these performances, I think my decision as to like who I would have voted for will be made a little clearer. But yeah, debating between 2 right now. Very excited to hash that out with you. Maybe you can persuade me. Maybe I can persuade myself. I don't know. But Jennifer Lawrence getting her big moment, obviously 2012 being this incredible peak for her. Same for Jessica Chastain becoming a leading lady star. Naomi Watts finally coming back and for such a physical role. And yeah, this double whammy of oldest nominee ever, youngest nominee ever. It's just a really diverse lineup, I think, with a lot of different styles. And so it's sort of like I can't really fault people for picking like a different person who should have won, because like everyone is doing something wildly different that it's almost like, how can you even compare these performances almost?
Right.
So more than usual even.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it is genuinely a year where despite who may be the quote unquote strongest, who may be the quote unquote weakest in the lineup, any one of them would have been a good winner.
Yeah.
And that's so rare.
Yeah.
So I also too just remembered that someone who would have voted for Naomi Watts, I remember seeing him on Twitter, and I don't remember his name, but Sally Field's twink, her son, was like, that should have been the win. Jessica Chastain, or I think I just had a stroke. Naomi Watts should be the winner. Jesus.
That was an Amour moment right there.
Seriously. Oh God, that's Eric coming for me. But yeah, so Sally Field's twink would have voted for her, but I don't know if Naomi Watts would have voted for her. So we'll talk more.
We'll talk. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. If you don't have anything else, we
Yeah,
can
let's do it.
Get right into Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30. All right. Getting her first Best Actress nomination here, second overall. So I can introduce her here since we haven't talked about her yet. Jessica Chastain, born in Sacramento, California, and she had a bit of a hard time growing up with a single mother, and they weren't well off, but she found her passion in the form of acting and Shakespeare. She studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and was accepted into Juilliard, so high credentials there. This I didn't actually know, but she was granted a scholarship by Robin Williams, so that's pretty interesting. Did a production of Salome, directed by Al Pacino, which she kind of credits with raising her profile. She did TV spots, indie films, and then she had 2011, her big breakthrough moment, where she was in 6 films. She was in The Debt, Take Shelter, Coriolanus, Texas Killing Fields, The Tree of Life, and The Help. And the latter 2 really put her on the map and made people stand up and be like, whoa, who is that? And, you know, she got huge raves for those latter 2 performances especially, and landed her first Oscar nomination in supporting actress for The Help. Very fun standout role there, and, you know, juxtaposed with a great dramatic role in The Tree of Life, and made for a great introduction into the mainstream. So then, very next year, here she is leading Zero Dark 30. This is Catherine Bigelow's highly anticipated follow-up to The Hurt Locker. And this film was actually originally going to be about the unsuccessful hunt for Osama bin Laden, but then Bigelow and her writer, Mark Bowl, went back to the drawing board when he was actually killed in 2011, not long before they were going to start filming, apparently. So, yeah, things happened very quickly to make this film. Jessica was cast to play like a composite character of sorts, representing many women involved in the capture of bin Laden. She actually got the role after she had worked with Megan Ellison on Lawless, and she connected her and Bigelow and made it happen. So the film tracks the decade-long hunt for Osama bin Laden, the leader of the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, and following the events of September 11th, and going all the way to him being captured and killed. And we see how Maya, played by Jessica Chastain, is relentlessly pursuing him through any means necessary, including torturing people to get information on his whereabouts. And we see the painstaking process to her finally finding him. So let's get right into it. Jessica Chastain, thoughts on Miss Chastain overall as an actress, your history with her, and this performance?
Yeah, so I have actually 1 degree from Jessica Chastain.
Wow.
So let me start with that to overall career. A good buddy of mine is a producer by the name of Tyler Davidson, and he produced Take Shelter, Emily the Criminal. He's based here in Cleveland. We actually just went to see the Substance a couple days ago. And yeah, really, really good guy. And I remember like when we've been known each other for about 10 years now. And I remember when I first met him, like, how the hell did you get Jessica Chastain? Because, you know, the film came out in 2011, but also, too, any actor's dream is like what Jessica Chastain pulled off in 2011, right? Like all those movies in ones. He's like, yeah, one of the producers she had just finished filming The Tree of Life, and one of the producers on Tree of Life were also the producer on Take Shelter. And they were trying to find, because that also shot here in Cleveland, and they were trying to find an actress, and they were like, yeah, I just worked with this unknown redhead. Name's Jessica. She's great. I think she would be amazing. And so that's how they got her. And now I don't know if this part's true, but I remember reading somewhere like she only made like $100 a day or something on this movie. So this is truly like Take Shelter was a movie she did for the amazingness of the script and working with Michael Shannon and all that good stuff. Again, I can't confirm that last part, and that's something I'll ask Tyler. That's not my business, but I'm always baffled and amazed at what someone's quote unquote price would be before they really get it, you know, big. So like beautiful to know that I'm just 1 degree from that, which I love. But I think Jessica Chastain's great. I mean, she's my choice for The Help to win supporting actress that year. She was the critics' darling leading up to that year, winning all the critics stuff. But this movie. Listen, if there's one person I trust about a film about torture, it's the woman who spent 2 years married to James Cameron. And,
Yes.
Catherine Bigelow really pulled it out coming off of The Hurt Locker. Revisiting this, it had been since the Academy Queens episode, I really found myself more enthralled in it this time. And I think it's one of those, because I was 20 when it came out. And then I think it was like 27 or 28 when we did that episode for Academy Queens. And I'm 32 now. And I feel like being more politically active as you get older and like really being able to look back in like hindsight and like look at this movie, it's actually fantastic. I love war films. I'm so straight with that, bruh. I love a good war film.
Wow.
She's like getting Osama. I'm like, yes, queen. Um,
Yes, yell at Kyle Chandler.
right. Oh, and that's another thing. I feel connected to this movie because I used the low level Mola Cracadola explosion scene she had to she went off on Kyle Chandler. That's how I got my first manager, because like when you go to get signed for something, if you don't have a reel, and I came from theater, they're like, put something on tape, and so like I put it on tape, and that monologue got me my first manager. So I also feel real connected to her on that.
Wow.
Right, but no, I mean it's great. I do, I don't agree with torture. Waterboarding is a big no-no to me. And it's also just a very heavy subject. I mean, I was 9 watching 3,000 people die on TV in my 4th grade math class.
Yep.
I think we're the same age. So like
Yeah.
that
Pretty much
memory,
same experience, honestly.
yeah, that memory is so ingrained in millennials, and it's like nothing ever got better. So
Mhm.
in a way, and I fully believe in a justice system, like you need to be put on trial and innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if that's a hot take when it comes to Osama bin Laden, but like I don't agree with the way they did it. That's not what the US is supposed to stand for. That's just my own thing. But I also understand why they did it that way. And so like I watch this movie now, and I'm touched on a whole different level, which I wasn't in a way before. When it comes to a performance, this is one of the 2 roles here that originally was written or was casted with Rooney Mara, our beloved winner for Dragon Tattoo the year before, uh,
Mhm.
that I know we both always connected on.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and then she had to drop out, and Jessica started filming this one day after the Help Oscar nominate or that ceremony.
Yeah.
So it was like
I know.
wild, right? And I always wonder what would have been, but getting through this movie is already challenging on the subject matter. Without Chastain's performance, it would be impossible, because you are genuinely so enthralled by what's happening and so emotionally connected already, that she is there to be the beacon of anger. She is there to be the beacon of balance. She is there to cry for you as an audience member, as a person of this nation who experienced that day. And she does it so fucking beautifully. And, I've never been a person that's like, Oscar should be given on scenes. But if there is ever a great example of a specific scene that deserves, like someone should have been nominated or won, it's that very last shot of her when she's
Yeah.
asked on the plane, where do you want to go? And she can't answer it, because her whole life since high school, when she was recruited for 9 years or however long it had been at that point, was to find Osama bin Laden, and it was done. So where did she go from here?
Mhm.
And it is heartbreaking for Maya as a character, because her friends are dead. She has no life. She even says in the film, like, I foregone a personal life for my work. So her work's over. What's next? That just hits. And as a 32-year-old adult now, I'm like, oh my God, I can relate to like so much of that in that one
I
moment.
know.
And I think it's beautiful. So, despite my love of Rooney Mara, despite what I would have loved to see Rooney Mara do with this, Jessica Chastain was the choice for this. Some people complain there's that when they're about to go and get bin Laden, that, she's missing for like those 15, 20 minutes. And at first, when I first had seen this movie, like I would agree with that. But I don't think she's missing to the point where you miss her. She's there. You can feel her, because this is her mission. We're just now getting it through the eyes of the soldiers. So I would like to push back on that theory now, that it's like, oh, she's, gone for a chunk at the end. No, 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 no. She's there. You feel her. I think it's great.
Everything has been set in motion because of her. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a very reductive take, I think, that like just because someone is technically not on screen, that you can't also feel their presence. So
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I have a couple notes. I took notes this time.
wow, look at
Usually,
you.
usually I start up here in the mind, but a few things that I noticed that really just got me. Have you seen recent, like, or Isabella Johnny's recent looks or like her Instagram where she's just got like the same hairdo. It's like the bangs and everything.
Yeah.
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 When Jessica Chastain is in Poland, she's got the Isabella Johnny wig. And I'm like, Isabel,
Yeah.
Ariana, what are you doing here?
I forgot about that look too. Yeah.
Right. And also to
So great.
Jason Clarke, why wasn't he not in supporting actor?
Yeah.
He's great in this.
Well, I mean, we'll get into, the sort of collapse of Zero Dark 30 towards the end, but I think that's a big factor there. Well, you said a lot there, and a lot of that I really do agree with. I really, really love Jessica Chastain, especially in 2012. This was around the time that I was starting to really stan actresses, and she was one of them, like full chastanity going on there. And I think it's because she felt to me like a lot of like those classic older actresses, like older as in a different era, that were just like these classic sort of beauties and also really talented and elegant and versatile and like all these different things. Loved her in The Help, loved her even more in The Tree of Life, which I know you also love too.
So much.
And yes, and so Zero Dark 30 really kind of elevated that to a new level. I think she's fantastic here. I think, ultimately maybe she would start to be a little typecast as these kinds of like tough as nails working women, moving forward from this, and things like Miss Sloane and Molly's Game, that sort of thing. But it was very exciting to see her in a role like this that was, I imagine, very demanding and, carrying it pretty flawlessly. Like, she is absolutely perfect casting for this because she's got that toughness, but she's also got a little bit of like that femininity to her that makes certain men count her out a little bit. But yeah, there's also like this real eagerness to just like prove herself and to work really damn hard to show why, not only like what she's invested in, but like why she deserves to be here. And like that energy is exactly what you need for this role. I think she is someone who I think has been a little bit put in the Anne Hathaway basket at times of being like super eager and a little bit of like a theater kid energy at times. And I think some of that like eagerness to really prove herself in this role, like on a meta level, and Maya having to prove herself really works in that respect, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's really, so I'm a person that would give like Jessica Chastain at least 6 nominations. Like, I think the first time you should have talked about her was last year for The Tree of Life. I would have, especially in that lineup, like that she should have been in there. Good Godspeed on having to revisit all that, Kevin. Like,
it was a journey, I'll tell you that.
Like, there's only one to ever really look forward to, and it's Dragon Tattoo. But but like, I would have nominated her for Most Violent Year, and then Miss Sloane and Molly's Game. So there was that period of almost 10 years where she was just missing, or she was almost there and almost made it. So to go back and then win for Tammy Faye was wild to me, because you look at it, she's the prime definition of like, her nominations are so much stronger than her actual win. Not saying that she's bad in Tammy Faye, but look at the material, honey. Like, it is here. It is The Help. It wasn't Tammy Faye. I'm glad she's got one. That's all I'll say there, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting to watch her kind of changing, I don't know, the way that she goes about this, sort of like what you were saying with the waterboarding stuff and the torture, of being like, in the beginning, it's not like she's stopping the torture or anything, because she sees it as a necessary tactic to get the job done. I think, as she says, like in that one interrogation when the guy is being interrogated and like begging for her help, she says to him very directly, like, you can help yourself by being truthful.
Yep.
It's interesting because it's like she hasn't fully stepped into her full power yet. So there is that twinge of like, this seems shady. I don't know if we should be doing this, but also I'm not going to stop it, And you can tell, she doesn't like that things have to be done in kind of a barbaric way, but it's also very effective in her eyes. So it's just interesting to watch her making those little concessions and like justifications in her mind, and you can just see it in her eyes.
Yeah, and you know what I really appreciate here? Mark Bowles' writing of this female character, because so many times, again, I mean, Faye Dunaway is the greatest example I can always think of a quote unquote diva. The woman, first of all, did you watch the Faye doc on
I
HBO?
have not watched it yet. No.
Oh my God, Kevin. Okay.
I've
There's
heard
this,
it's like not great.
it's
So I
not
don't know.
great, but there's this moment where Sharon Stone looks in the camera and stares into your soul as a viewer. So they're talking about, I think I tweeted it actually the one day, but I did. I'll send it to you when we're done here. But there's a moment where they're talking about Mommy Dearest, and Sharon Stone's like, "Yeah, this role was hard. What would you have done? It's not her fault." And I was like, "Oh my God, Sharon!" I was like, "I'm on your side." But no, like Faye Dunaway's always been like, proposed as a diva because she knows what she wants. Bette Midler has too. Like,
Yep.
women have. And there's a line in this movie that is like where she's writing the days after they find the compound on the window, and someone says something to her boss, and he's like, "Yeah, my life is just easier when I just do what she wants." If that had been a man, that comment would have never been made
Yep.
because she is strong. She knows her convictions. She sticks to those convictions. She knows that she's right. I mean, she's the only one in this boardroom of men that go 100%. And she's like,
Yeah.
"I'm the motherfucker that found like yes." And I always forget James Gandolfini's in this movie, rest in peace. But I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's right." Mark Bull being a man, being able to put that on paper for Jessica then to bring to the screen, like kudos where kudos need to be given. Because not every man, as I just hit puberty and say, man, I sound like SpongeBob. um, my voice is gone. Um, not every man can do that. That would have just been probably just a line that had still been in there that maybe if Maya wasn't written as strong would have just come off even worse. So kudos to
Mhm.
Mark Bull. Seriously.
Yeah. Beautiful screenplay. And speaking to that, actually, like the whole thing where she's like at one point delivering this report to Kyle Chandler's character, the station chief or whatever, and he kind of is like deflating her argument about like it's like this whole thing of this one courier guy being this possible lead of getting bin Laden. I love just watching her kind of like keeping her cool. Like she's clearly disappointed that she maybe can't offer a slightly more concrete argument, but also she doesn't let that disappointment show too much emotion, because she can't as a woman in this very male dominated industry. But I like that the film and also Jessica herself do just respect her intelligence and also our intelligence as viewers by not putting too fine a point on the gender dynamic necessarily. Like it's definitely an underlying theme, but it's sort of like it's not the main purpose here. We're not trying to like girl boss this woman. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So
I mean, even the interaction with what's her name? She looks like Meryl Streep in Bridges of Madison County here.
yeah,
Jennifer
Jennifer
Ely.
Ely.
Or
Yeah,
Ely, yeah. Like even in the scenes with her, you could like Jennifer's like girls we're sticking together, like let's be friends. Like it doesn't start off like that with those two in that first scene, but it gets to there because she's like, "Hey, we're socializing, like come on." Like the character herself, even to other women, can be so off-putting, but there's never this point where you're like, "Bitch, why are you doing this?" You're like, I get it. And that takes really good writing and a really good actress to do that. And that was Mark and that was Jessica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Catherine, we can credit her too.
Oh yes. Oh yes, absolutely. I'm not discrediting Catherine at all.
Yeah.
But a director has nothing to direct if the script isn't there. A director has nothing to direct if the actor or actress who's saying the lines aren't there. So absolutely, kudos and hats off to Catherine Bigelow. But it's at the end of the day, it's Mark and Jessica because it's not there for Catherine to do anything if they're not there. Yeah.
Yeah, and when Jennifer Ely's character is like sort of pressing her on having a social life or like any kind of personal life, it is funny in Jessica's performance. Her response is sort of like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm not going to fool around with my coworker. He's my coworker." And it's like, that's not even within the realm of possibility of something that she's even thinking about, that of something that would happen. And Jennifer Ely and a lot of others around her are showing some concern for like just how in the weeds she is with this. But yeah, I just think Jessica does an incredible job of showing that intense dedication and how it starts to sort of run her ragged ultimately because she has no balance in her life whatsoever. And even when people point it out to her, she is kind of like, yeah, I can sort of handle myself fine. Like, I don't really need any of that. And it's like she just doesn't have time for distraction, but is maybe subconsciously, I don't know. There's something about the performance where I do feel like she is showing how much more tired of just feeling like I am so sick of just like having to chase all these leads and do all these things. I am 100% certain that he is in this compound, and it's just like, that is it.
Yeah.
So it's fun to watch that journey of her slowly being like, I just can't play around with the niceties of anything anymore. Just like, this is what we got to do. Just believe me, my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that energy.
Absolutely. And remember too, like this was a woman who, character-wise, because again, it's a like bunch of different women in one. That's who Maya represents. Who in the film, she's like, yeah, I've been, working on this right out of high school. So at that point, because that socialized thing was that the bombing of '05, I think, in Jordan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like early 20s. So for her to be like, yeah, I have, like all I know is work. I'm thinking back to my early 20s and I was like, when are we getting a drink? Like I mean, I was focused on paying my bills, but I wasn't focused on work in the way that maturity at that age is not there. And we all know an early 20-year-old, it's not there. The way that Jessica then just portrays it is so, again, I appreciate this more as I'm getting older. So I think it's like it's just a movie that ages really well despite what happens in it.
Yeah. And especially I think that is noteworthy because this came out so, soon after the events actually happened. And I feel like it's kind of rare that movies that are so based in current events actually age well. And I think this pretty much has. Yeah. And I feel like she only really raises her voice even like a few times in the film, and it's when she is still being questioned after all these years, like when she calls Jason Clarke, who's now like working at the CIA headquarters or whatever, and she is being like, basically move heaven and earth to get me this contact, and he's like, okay, but this is because you want it to be true, and she fully snaps at him, and she's like, yes, I want it to be fucking true. Which is such an impactful moment because she's been so cool and measured up to that point. But it's like, like I said, her patience is just running thin after all these years. And then, of course, the big monologue where she is with Kyle Chandler, very obvious Oscar clip scene kind of out of context. But I think in the context of the film, it's so good where he criticizes her for being, again, so narrow-minded almost about bin Laden when they've, at this point moved on of, having to protect these homegrown terrorists, radicalized by Al-Qaeda and this whole thing. And she just unloads on him and, it's just like, you just want me to, nail some low-level guys so you can put it on your resume. And the truth is you don't understand Pakistan and you don't know Al-Qaeda.
Yep.
Yeah.
I told you, I got that monologue down. I to this day, I still remember it. I agree. I agree so much. I do want to go off of your point though with that Oscar clip because it is so obvious. As much as I love that should not have been her clip, in my opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Acting is reacting, and acting is not about how well you can deliver a line. Of course, you need to make it believable, but that's not what acting is. The reaction to another person is the acting. I really wish that her Oscar clip had been that end scene on when he asks her where she wants to go. That should have been it. Do you agree?
I mean, yes. I do wonder if the consideration there was like, this is the end of the movie, and we don't want to just like, not that people already don't know that
right, we know the end
been captured.
Spoiler, Bin Laden is killed.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe it is. Like, there's something about just like capturing something that is fully going to get your attention. I think that is just what it was, that it was just the most obvious thing. But yes, I do agree her best scene is her last scene, like bar none.
I also want to put this into the ether to get your opinion because I'm also prepared with the questions that people asked. I was like, I'm ready for this. For some reason, I went onto YouTube after I watched this movie, and what came up was a clip of the moment between Viola Davis and Kerry Washington on the crossover Scandal episode of how to get away with murder. And I was like, God, imagine Kerry Washington in this role.
Oh,
Like,
wow. Yeah.
oh, she'd be such a good Maya.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to have her. Yeah, because I think she could modulate that pretty well. I know some
Yep.
people are critical of her acting style at times, but I think that is the perfect, yeah, channel for her particular energy too. I think her and
Yep.
Jessica do match in that way. So,
Yep.
yeah, not a bad call.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wonder how that would have also factored in with her being, a black woman in a role like that,
Hmm.
dealing with all these, white men, on in addition to being a woman, being black as well. Like, how does that change the dynamic a little bit?
Right. Because
You
there's
know,
that angry black woman trope, which
yeah.
black women have to
Hmm.
face. And I mean, we're seeing it right now in the election stuff. So
Yeah.
that they're trying to
Hmm.
pull that already. So God knows what it would have been like here.
Exactly. Yeah. So then, yeah, like the last 30 minutes, the whole mission, which, by the way, I do just want to say Bigelow really just nails that in terms of the tension there, the nervousness of the SEAL team as they're going in, and the cuts back to Maya, who's been, preparing for this for almost a decade. It's just really, really well put together. And she does take a bit of a backseat to the mission, but it's for necessary storytelling reasons. But like, even when we know what's going to happen, I do think you are right there with her as she sits in that control room, just like barely blinking, playing with her hands, and then once they actually confirm that they killed him, just that emotional journey and her state of shock that washes over her face that they've actually done it and that this is real and this happened and it was because of her. Beautiful work. And then leading up to that final scene of her, as you have mentioned multiple times now, it's just that single tear in the end. Like, some of that could have been kind of cheesy and not as effective, but I think she really pulls it off.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
beautiful work.
So
Yeah.
good. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Glad we could agree. Yeah.
Yes. We're good. We're good so
okay.
far.
Yes. Well, let's move on to our next nominee. This will be an interesting one to break down. Emmanuelle Riva in Amour. Okay, so Emmanuelle Riva making history here, oldest Best Actress nominee, which still remains today, 85 years old when she was nominated. So Emmanuelle Riva was born in Chenemenil, France. Her first role on stage was in Arms and the Man way back in 1954, and her first on-screen role was in a TV show in 1957. She had greater prominence a few years later for her role in Hiroshima Mon Amour, which got her a BAFTA nomination, and she continued to star in French productions throughout her career. She won the Volpi Cup for Best Actress for Thérèse Decairoux in 1962. Working on my French there. She
I love it.
was... Thanks. Pretty active through the early 70s, and then she kind of worked pretty sporadically after that, most notably in Three Colors Blue in 1993. She mostly stopped appearing in films in the 21st century until around this time, and she was really drawn in by Michael Haneke's script for Amour. So this is a French film about an elderly couple, George and Anne, played by Jean-Louis Trintignant and Emmanuelle Riva, both retired music teachers. So one morning, Anne has a silent stroke that leaves George shocked as she is unable to respond to him. After this, she becomes lucid again, but she has to have surgery, which leaves her paralyzed on her right side and needing a wheelchair for transportation. And as she starts to deteriorate health-wise, she asks that her husband not bring her back to the hospital so that she can live out the rest of her days at home. And the film explores how George struggles with how to help her as she becomes increasingly unable to bear the pain and she has another stroke. So yeah, this is a tough one, really tough watch. Tell me your thoughts on Emmanuelle Riva and her performance in this, cute little rom-com, Amour.
Yes, the feel-good film of 2012.
Yes, it's about love.
Okay, obviously I see you, nobody else does, but I just the motion you just made for love about the oh god, okay. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I luckily did not make the mistake with this watch that I did for the Academy Queens episode, and I mentioned this to you. I was in such a depressive mood because when we did that episode, because the night before I had finished my watch, doing a double feature of this with The Impossible. And I was like, brr, 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 just like playing an organ with, my in my apartment. It was so depressive. So I watched this one just on its own. And, going into it, I know at this point what to expect. And I will say right off the bat, I really hate the Oscar clip because she's not doing anything in that Oscar clip. But outside of that, that's my only complaint, because she's getting the shit beat out of her in that Oscar clip. And it's like,
Yeah, and she's like spitting up water.
right. I'm
That's
like,
the
there's so
extent
many
of it.
better options. But this move, or this role is not very verbal. There's not a whole lot she's got to say here, because this is a reactionary role. And this is what I mean when I say like acting is reacting, because she's portraying this stroke victim. And you get a little glimpse of her life and the life with her husband, like the night before, and how proud that she is of her student when she's at this recital, and all is good in the world until the very next morning. And then you see a person clinging on to what there is left of their life, knowing that this is the end. And you know getting older is going to be such a privileged journey. And I know there is going to be a moment I will never forget, my grandmother saying to me, it's kind of like that Barbara Stanwyck clip that she's like, I'm still young in this body. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother once said, I'll look in the mirror and I'll still see that 25-year-old girl. And she's, my grandmother died at 86. And that's what's happening here to this character. She knows that she's still young on the inside, but her body is dying. And then you see what's happening with her daughter, played by the brilliant Isabelle Huppert, which you get to talk about in a couple of years. I'm so jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Should have won. And then you see her husband and how he's dealing with it, and he's breaking down because he doesn't know how to handle it. And then he's beating the shit out of her for not eating oatmeal, but she's like, "Fuck your oatmeal." Um, I mean, this movie is gut wrenching. This movie, if Silkwood, that whole like, I want to take a Silkwood shower after I like watch certain things. I want to go to church. I want to cry. I want to like just repent. I want to try to do everything I can to avoid that, because that is terrifying. This is a horror movie. This is a horror movie. Like, it may not be quote unquote classified as a horror movie, but this is scary as shit, because this could happen to any of us at any age.
Yeah.
This movie, this performance really just makes you appreciate what you have, even if it's in an awful scenario. Like, I'm going to inject myself in here on this one. Kevin, since we did the last episode, I've been through 2 relationships. I've had 2 different boyfriends. I'm dealing with, in the last 2 months, a breakup with the second one. And like, it's been hard. It's been mentally hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think of this film and it makes me appreciate that I'm even still here despite the hardships I'm going through. And so like, that's a great example of how we can appreciate life, because we could see what happens to us, right? And Emmanuelle Riva is so brilliant here that you want to hug her, you want to savor yourself, you want to almost take her place. Like, this is not an easy role. This is a lot of reacting to real time, quote unquote, moments. And she's brilliant. My only knowing of her was 3 Colors Blue by the time this had come out, because I think at that time, not even knowing before like Amour was a thing, I think it was earlier in that year, I had done the trilogy. And so I was like, oh, okay, I know that. And she's my Pisces sister. I mean, I'm February 23rd, she's February 24th. Happy birthday, Emmanuelle. But yeah, I mean, she didn't really get to do anything after this. She had a movie or 2, but I'm glad she got it, because this is brilliant. No notes.
Yeah, beautiful. No notes. Wow. Well, yeah, I can say that I didn't have much of a relationship with Emmanuelle Riva before seeing Amour. If I had seen her in things, it wasn't enough of an impression for me to be like, that's Emmanuelle Riva, I have to watch more of her films.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think that lack of context about her before I saw it in 2012 really helped me to buy her and Jean-Louis too, who I think is also brilliant here, as this older couple, and not have it just feel like actors playing a part, you know.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, there really isn't much of a barrier there, and like both of them get to such a vulnerable place that it's almost, yeah, I don't know if this is like the right word for it, but it's like confrontational in a way. Like it feels like it's really showing how difficult the aging process is, and especially the difficulty of caring for a loved one who is suffering, and, you know, trying to figure out how to help them and when to provide some mercy ultimately, and like being so open with it and realistic with how draining that process is, that I feel like it makes you go beyond just being a passive viewer and makes you really step back and like think about what you would do in that situation from both angles, honestly, how you relate to either of these characters. So yeah, to your point, it does, like, that's what the best horror films do, is make you a more active viewer, I think, and that is kind of what is similar here, and it really lingers with you. At least it does for me. And I think the greatness of her performance is how fully she gives herself over to how brutal and almost hopeless the dying process can be, but like also knowing that her husband will take care of her and respect her wishes, and taking some comfort in that and making peace with it. Like it's really a huge mix of emotions that's being asked of her, and also not having to say much in terms of communicating that. She just does it very non-verbally, but it's like, again, it's like you're just kind of watching someone almost documentary style die before your eyes.
Yeah, you know, I would love to get your take on this. I feel like that you watch this movie and you don't have to know French to know what they're saying. You don't have to speak the language, and that's so rare. Like, in order to portray that in a different language, but you don't need to really understand the language to understand what's being said. Like, I think it's, I can't think of another, maybe Liv Ullmann in Face to Face when she's being tortured as hell, but like,
brutal watch. Yeah.
Also should have won. But I'm just
solid number 2.
Wait, who's your number 1? Oh yeah, Faye.
Miss Faye, of
Miss
course.
Faye. But yeah, I can't think of another performance like that. Can you? Where like you can
Not really.
Yeah.
It's just, it sort of transcends that. It's really a remarkable performance.
Yeah.
And I never rewatched this since about the time it came out, for, I guess, obvious reasons. And so I really didn't have a strong memory of like her performance outside of the stroke, basically. But it really is like night and day to see her as, in the beginning, like that sort of sophisticated older woman, you know, attending this concert and having this air about her that's very cultured, but also warm. And obviously it doesn't last very long before she has this happen to her, but it is almost alarming to see the difference there, and to watch just like this light totally gone from her eyes in that kitchen table scene the next morning, and just being totally vacant. And I also think it's even more effective by his just like increasing panic of not knowing what's going on, and her not being responsive to anything he does, that it's like they serve their performances well in the balance between the two of them. Like, she wouldn't be as good as she is without him. So I don't know why he didn't get more recognition either.
That's one that I'm like, that you get in foreign language film, you get in picture, you get in director, you get in
director,
actress.
Screenplay. Yeah.
Where was his nomination? Like, he had to have been 6th. I'm sorry. There, but that one,
yeah,
that's another just like, what the hell, Academy?
Yeah.
If you ever happen to do the Men episode, like, or wait, no, that would be such a good one though for the how did they not get nominated? Your Patreon series. I think I had a stroke, dude.
A man robbed.
Yeah, a man robbed. I also agree that like if you're ready to go, you can make that choice. Like that.
Yeah,
I don't know
totally.
why we make this controversial. I know there's even something recently going on about the American woman in Sweden who went, like, it's just happened in the news, and people are like, the assisted death pod or whatever. Like, if you're ready to go, I mean, we saw Stella Parsons do it in Grace and Frankie. Why can't, it's
Mm,
like
yeah,
when you're ready to go, you should go. You're not like, that's not, who are you to tell me or my family? Like, no.
yeah.
I want to go. Let's go. Here's the thing. I dealt with my grandmother. When I moved back from LA, and she died about 2 years ago now. But like I helped her because she got Alzheimer's and dementia. And seeing what happens, taking care of someone and seeing what happens to them. I always said, like, now that I know what the process is, like if that ever happens, I'm out. Like I'm not doing it to the people around me. I don't want to go through that. I've had fun. See you on the other side. So, like,
Yeah.
the way that we make that taboo, I really hate that because she was ready to
Hmm.
go. Like, Emmanuel's like, please kill me. And he loved her. He did. He loved her. He set her free. And
Yeah.
that is love.
Yeah.
That
He
is
is.
Amour.
He's easing her pain and her
Yeah.
suffering, and that is love. So, yeah, that whole scene where, like, after she has that stay in the hospital and she is making him promise to never bring her back there, I love how she performs that so gently, but also firmly, and being like, making herself clear what her intentions are here.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think the power in her performance and in the film is that so much is left unsaid for you to sort of interpret how she's feeling, even. But in moments like that, you can definitely sense that she's already starting to accept that, this may not be like this one time incident, like it is going to be worse the next time, and she would rather be home and have him take care of her, the man she loves, rather than dying in a strange environment. And so, yeah, I don't know, when she does get, those glimpses of lucidity peppered throughout the film, I think just seeing the contrast there makes the performance all the more impressive,
Yeah.
because you see the woman that she was and how brilliant and clear-minded she was.
Agreed. I'm so glad she won the BAFTA. I'm so mad though we never got a speech from her.
Yeah,
Like
she wasn't there. I know.
yeah, I remember, like, was she even going to show up to the Oscars? And then I was so excited to see her there. And
Hmm.
Kevin, I completely forgot that her face was in David O. Russell's box until you tweeted that, because obviously we all know David O. Russell's face when she won the BAFTA, and I was like
Yes, horrified
horrified. And I
face.
was like, the sweetest revenge. I was like, what gay it was in the technical booth, making sure that was going on. Like,
Hmm.
we had your back, girl. Like, that was
Yeah.
just cream of the crop.
That is just, there's no way that was just a coincidence that happened
None,
that way.
none,
I
none,
refuse to accept that.
none
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. It's so, and she looks so adorable. She just like has her finger on her chin, like,
Right.
like she's just waiting for her name to be called.
It was like
It's
that.
just,
What is it? Tell David it was me. It was like that Game of Thrones moment.
that is what happened there. Yep.
Oh, so good.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Those few moments of joy, like when she is visited by one of her music students and she's kind of lightly bantering with him, or when she's like spinning around in her little electric wheelchair with that little playful look on her face. So it's like, it's not all hopeless, to be
Right.
clear. It's not just an unrelenting torture going on here. And that's why in that panic that like George has when Anne has her first stroke, that like that's why it's so alarming to him to see this kind of bright spirit of his wife just go out completely, and like she is a
Mhm.
different person. Yeah, and also
Ooh.
we have to talk about the yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
When she has the second stroke in bed, when she's like visited by her daughter Isabelle Huppert, and she's struggling to make words and like gasping out one word at a time, and there's like that paralysis going on one side of her face, and she makes that look so believable that I found it genuinely difficult to watch
Yeah.
and not feel like it's actually happening to Emmanuelle Riva herself in that moment. Especially because it's not just the physicality of her like looking like she had a stroke, but like she's also frustrated that she can't form words coherently. And I just can't imagine the difficulty of having to contort her face in a certain way and also just like play with all the different layers there. It's a lot.
Yeah, I remember this year being like, will she get in? Will she not? Because this was also the last year before the SAG after merge that SAG nominated a foreign language performance. Once they merged, they stopped doing it, which I'm like, it's so dumb
Yep.
because she missed SAG, she missed but like BAFTA saved her. And so I just like remember get in, will she not get in? And then she won. Was she gonna win? And then like blah blah blah. And then when she like got the nomination, you think back to all of this and you're like, you're exhausted, as you said, but you're like, wow, okay, this is one of the most deserving in the category's history. Like,
Hmm.
because again, you feel bad for her. You're like, oh my God, the physicality of it, the character herself. I mean, there's so much going on, and yeah, rest in peace, girl. You did
Yeah,
you did the thing.
she did.
She did
Yeah.
the thing.
Also, just one more thing, just the ending scene for her of like when he's telling her a story to help calm her down and she's just like moaning in pain over and over about just like how much whatever's happening to her clearly is hurting, and the
Yeah.
fact that that scene is all one take and just like no cuts, it's really intense, and just like him ultimately doing the humane thing and suffocating her with the pillow to put her out of her misery. I can't imagine how difficult that scene was for the two of them, and to stay in that place emotionally for that long, and then him doing that to her. Like, that's the part that made me really emotional, because how hard this must be for this man to do this, and know that she's also going to be kind of like writhing in pain because of this, but that it is for her own benefit in the end, ultimately, and it is her wishes. It's what he asked her to do. Just the emotional journey of watching him do that too. It's like I said, it's like it's you can't have one without the other. So it's what makes me frustrated that he wasn't acknowledged too. But yeah, her performance, like, it's one of those where, like, I know a lot of people bristle a little when people call an actress brave, but like for me, in a performance like this is not an over exaggeration. Like, this is a brave performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating he didn't get in. It's like, can you have Thelma without Louise? Can you have the turning without the point? Can you have the terms without the endearment? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't do
Yeah.
that. They're together. It's a package.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make sense to me. It's the one thing I'm just like, it's my only complaint. It's my only
Yeah.
complaint. And it's for a
Yeah, obviously it
man.
has nothing to do with her,
Right, it's
but
for a
yeah,
man. Like, they have enough.
that's not what we do on this show. I don't
Right,
know what you're
right,
doing here.
right. Kevin, this is starting to get
Not
creepy.
allowed.
We are
I
way
know.
too on point here. Yeah,
Yeesh.
it's again, that is love. That is the amour. That
Mhm.
is doing the hard thing because you love someone, having to let them
Yeah.
go. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Okay. Well, I think we can move
Whew.
on, unless you have anything else to get off your chest there.
No,
Yeah. It's a
crying.
tough watch. It
Right.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's one
so
of those,
imagine
like,
this with the impossible back to back was not a great
I
time.
know. My God. Yeah, it's one of those films that you can watch once and probably will not want to revisit unless you have to, in your case, or my
Three
case,
times,
or for your
Kevin.
case, 3 times. My God. But fully, I think, worth it. Okay, let's get to our next nominee. A big turning of the page here to our youngest, Quvenzhané Wallis in Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Yay.
A very exciting nomination here. Only 9 years old when she gets this nomination, making her the youngest to be nominated for an Oscar in either of the actress categories, actually. So, Quvenzhané Wallis, born in Louisiana, which is also where Beasts of the Southern Wild takes place. She was born in 2003, and she apparently lied about her age when she was auditioning for this lead role, because the minimum age requirement was 6, and she was only 5 at the time of her audition, which is remarkable. And the director, Ben Zeitlin, was just really impressed with her right from the start. Her comprehension, her voice, and also apparently her being able to burp on command is all what led to him picking her for this part. And he actually made alterations to the script to play to her strengths. So Beasts of the Southern Wild is about a girl named Hushpuppi, played by Quvenzhané, who lives with her ailing father, Wink, Dwight Henry, in a small community in the Louisiana bayou called the Bathtub. So we mostly see the world through Hushpuppi's eyes. She's taught in school about these prehistoric creatures called aurochs, and when there's a huge flood that disrupts their home, she and Wink seek shelter, and Hush Puppy assumes that because she fought with her father recently and hit him, that there was a disruption in nature that caused all this and even led to the aurochs coming out of the water, which she imagines. So the film is kind of like a magical realism fantasy drama, but mostly understated slice of life at the same time, as Hush Puppy tries to survive and help her dying father and also look for her mother. So yeah, I know you're going to have a lot to say about this one, and it's a big reason why you wanted to do this episode. Tell me your thoughts on Quvenzhané Wallis and why this film clearly had such an impact on you, as you mentioned earlier, and this performance.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is the, after Zero Dark 30, the second Rooney Mara role that she had originally. And no, I'm kidding. We haven't gotten to that one
Just
yet.
imagining her narration, like deadpanning. Once there was a Hush Puppy. Yeah.
Right. This movie is magic. This movie is, now again, before I even get into that, she's 5 years old when she auditions, which puts the audition process for her like 2007, 2008, and then it took 4 years in post-production for this to come out. Independent movies take a long time. People need, you guys need to remember that. When an independent film that started filming when their lead actress was 5 and then she's 9 going on 10 when the nomination comes out, the movies you see now in theaters have been in production for like anywhere between like 5 to 10 years. Unless you have some big studio film, blah, blah. I mean, even look at, dude, you want to feel old for a second? Avatar came out when we were 17. We're going to be 42 when the last one comes out. What? I'm done.
Yeah,
I would like Emmanuelle Riva, put me out of my misery because this is way too long. So yeah, that's a little thought for you, for us millennials right there.
Lovely, thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, Quvenzhané Wallis. This is like, there are film debuts where you're like, okay, that's a film debut. Like that's a person who has never been in front of a camera before, who puts people to shame, who have 20 plus years experience. Ronnie Blakely is a great example of that in Nashville. Quvenzhané Wallis puts every other person in this category to shame, in the sense of, that's a first-time actor. Acting, again, is reacting. When there is a realism of, is this person even realizing they're in a movie? Do they know they're in a movie? Because it's that natural. That's Quvenzhané Wallis. I don't know. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the director, it's the editor. They did it for her. They do it for every actor. That it literally, in Lupita Nyong'o's,
that is a very lazy excuse that people say with child actors. That is,
that's
very
every
productive.
actor. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o mentioned it in her Oscar speech. You know, I need to thank the unsung hero of this movie, the editor, John Bobbitt, I think his name was, or something. I don't know, maybe messing that part up, but I hate that excuse, because okay, if you think that's the case, you go do it. Like, you're not going to get that performance at all from anybody else except for Quvenzhané Wallis. The amount of experience that comes off across the screen is just mind-blowing. I think of other kid actors like Patty McCormick or Quinn Cummings or Tatum O'Neal or Mercedes McCambridge, who was really the role of Reagan. Yeah, I'm throwing shade there. Please, again, have you guys, people who are like, Linda Blair should have won that, go to YouTube, search up Linda Blair's performance without the voice. It's awful. That is Mercedes McCambridge's role, full stop. Anyway, Quinn Cummings, Anna Paquin, you know, Keisha Castle Hughes, all of them, none of them hold a candle here to Quvenzhané. And Tatum O'Neal won hers. Anna Paquin won hers. There's something about when you are just able to watch a movie and then it ends and you sit there and you're like, what the hell did I just watch in the best of ways? That actor did their job. That director did their job. That screenwriter did that job. This movie, first of all, overperformed as hell at the Academy. Nobody knew if she was also getting in. And then it comes out with the big award, like director, Ben Zeitlin getting in, picture, actress, screenplay. Like, those are big awards. It missed. It also should have gotten score. I do not know how it missed score.
How did that miss score? I don't understand. To this day.
I have had the score downloaded on my iPhone since 2012.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. Once there was a Hush Puppy, the bathtub. Oh my God, the score is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Production design, I mean,
Sure, yeah.
special effects. Like, what? How?
Mm-hmm.
Dwight Henry in supporting actor? How?
Definitely.
My God. So people are like, oh, she was a fifth. I'm like, first of all, have you seen The Impossible? That was a fifth. But like, people underestimate how well Quvenzhané did in this race. Like, there was a definite way that she could have won here. I would have given it all 4 wins, to be honest. That was my picture, director, spoiler. I'm sorry. People know by now with me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin. Edit that if you want to.
No, it's fine.
Seriously. But like, it is wild because this should have swept. This should have swept. It overperformed, which means that the Academy loved this movie. And I love this movie. It inspired a lot in me as a filmmaker. I'm really still after Wendy, I like really want to see Ben Zeitlin return with something great.
Mm-hmm.
Quvenzhané did Annie, and then I love her mom not using her as an ATM and making sure she had a childhood. Now that she's
Yeah, I know.
18, like I respect that so much. And now that she's 18 plus or maybe 19 now or something like that, like she's an
I think
adult.
it's 21.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's 2024. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She's of
Yep.
drinking
Yep.
age now. Whew. Well, she's back to acting. She's doing her own thing. She's
Yeah.
building back up a resume. She's still with William Morris, so they consider her A-list enough to still have her signed, which is great. Good for her. 21?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my
I
God,
know.
that just threw me. But yeah, I've got this is one where I'm just fascinated every time I watch it. I own it. I watch it at least once every couple months. It keeps the magic alive. This is a fairy tale. This is a fairy tale come to
Yeah.
life. This is the equivalent of like if something like Hook got these nominations or The Goonies. Those are fairy tales. It's great. Yeah, no notes.
Yeah, I will just say that I haven't really followed her career after this point all that much, partly because, like you kind of mentioned, she hasn't done a whole lot, which I'm not sure how much is her choice and her just wanting to grow up semi-normal and her parents wanting her to be semi-normal and not take too much on. Or, Hollywood, I don't know if they know what to do with her beyond Annie in 2014. So there was a decline, obviously. And she had a role on Blackish, I think, for a little bit. And she was like a series regular on Swagger. But in terms of film, she was just in this sci-fi movie called Breathe with Jennifer Hudson. That was her first film in 8 years. So, not sure what is her choice versus what Hollywood is doing there, or if it's both. But when you watch Beasts of the Southern Wild, I think you can see right away what Ben Zeitlin saw in her, in this wise beyond her years look in her eyes, and just the activeness there, especially at that age, I think is really remarkable. She's so self-assured and comfortable on camera that I am never questioning her reactions to anything or feeling like she's being guided to act a certain way, like you sometimes can sense with child performances at times. And yeah, I think what helps is like you either have it or you don't, which is charisma. She just has this great expressive face that's also not overly rehearsed, like precocious, annoying kid actor at the same time, which is also a lot of what I talked about with Keisha Castle Hughes too, with her nomination as well. So yeah, I think this is a really, really cool nomination that the Academy gave, because this is one of those where it's like you could have come up with so many stupid excuses as to why to not nominate her. She's a child, and for some reason there's this huge stigma against children being in lead categories, even though they are the stars of their films, as you, I'm sure, are also passionate about that. And also the fact that it is such a low-key, indie film that easily could have just been overlooked in favor of flashier performances and flashier films. And yet it's just like one of those nominations that feels earned on merit rather than guided by like, studio or like year in advance Oscar predictions or, the whole industrial complex of the awards. That it just feels purely organic based on love for her and for the film, which is very refreshing and probably what should be happening with the Oscars, is that kind of happening on merit and people just loving a performance in a film in that way organically. So
I agree. I mean, we just talked about Jean-Louis having to put down Emmanuelle Riva in Amour. Quvenzhané does that here with Dwight, essentially. And like where is a child at 5 years old pulling that from? Kevin, do you know what I did at 5 years old?
What's that?
I made my Kimberly and Trini dolls kiss from the Power Rangers. Like that's what I was doing at 5 years old.
Wow.
So like, they were lesbians. They were roommates. But yeah, I mean, this is just when she finds the surrogate of the mother, and then like, she's going back across the water, and she's like, her dad's like, I gotta go, and she's like, don't go. I mean, there's like, oh my God, it's heartbreaking. It's so beautiful. And that right there, another example of, I don't know who did the Oscar clips this year because they're not great, but the Oscar clip she did was the I'm the man. Because, it was that cute moment where she's like, arms up, which I like, love that. Right. But when you have that crying moment where she's talking to her dad, and she's saying goodbye to her father, and like, I'm like, oh God, the
incredible.
heartstrings, it's so good. I mean, even the beginning of this movie, like the first, 6 or 7 minutes is this giant festival of people with lights. And by the way, that was all the crew. The crew, that was like their rap party. They pretty much like, that's what they did. And like, then I love that. Yeah, they put it in the movie. And I'm like, what Ben Zeitlin did here, everyone's always like, Ben Affleck, like, no. Ben Zeitlin was the right one here. I mean, I would have put some.
The right Ben got in.
Yeah. But like, the way that he was never really ever given the chance to even possibly win here from like, it's wild because this movie, he did this as an independent film. He pulled all of this from Quvenzhané. I mentioned earlier with Catherine, but Mark Bowl script and Quvenzhané, but like people forget, like he also did the script. He worked on that. That's still him. So this is a different scenario to where it's like, without him, this wouldn't exist. Where's his flowers? I do love that he pulled a Terrence Malick though. Like he got signed, I think, to like Paramount or Searchlight. It was Searchlight. Or Phoebe Bridger or whatever her name is, Fleabag. And where
Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yes. Not Phoebe Bridgers.
There it is. Lady. Right. Where like they just paid him to exist since and he's still in that contract
deal, and right.
I'm like, good for you. Last time I was paid to exist, there was a freaking outbreak in the world happening. Like what? So like Ben Zeitlin may have got his flowers in cash, but like he needs his flowers as a director. And Quvenzhané Wallis, I need her to come back. There is zero reason why Saoirse Ronan should be on 4, almost possible 6 nominations, and she's only got 1. I'm just saying. Saoirse, turn down a damn role. Just saying.
Yeah. Make room for Quvenzhané.
Honestly.
Yeah. I also think her narration is really great. I don't always love narration in film, but you really feel this just incredible pride, like in the beginning, in that sort of like celebration sequence, and just like Ben Zeitlin kind of just showing us the world of this community she's in. And she's just talking about like being part of this community and celebrating more holidays than anywhere else in the world, and like communicating with all the animals, and like listening to that little chick, and just like playing with the sparklers. And it's just really endearing, just her wide-eyed sort of curiosity. And again, it doesn't feel too cutesy, hammy, and like a kid actor infantilizing way. Like they really give her space to explore how she really feels all the highs and lows of living in this community, which I think is really beautiful, and again speaks to her maturity as well, that she's able to communicate all that. And I think there's a really great, again, that like determination and independence that she has. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's just like, again, like confidence and strength that you don't often see in a 6-year-old girl,
right?
And not make her like sassy and like smart alecky or anything. It just, I think it speaks to the script and the direction just working in concert with her performance, that she's so believable. And you get this very complicated relationship with her father, who is often rather strict with her, and like that one scene where he slaps her and she just looks him right in the eye and says, "I hope you die, and when I go to your grave, I'll go there and eat birthday cake all by myself," which is such a
Same girl.
childlike response, but
Right.
also kind of like a great read. Not gonna lie, it's a great read.
Well, and that's the thing too, because like childhood is all about imagination. That's what this movie is. There's an innocence that we eventually all lose, and we stop believing in magic, and that's what makes this movie so magical. Because while she is going through these, and she's having to mature in the movie, and also portraying that maturity, she's also portraying what we seem to forget as adults, what we did as kids, and that's make believe. And it is so cute, like when she's having her moments of like learning about the I always call them, is it the Lorax or the Thorax? And like she's learning about that, and she's like imagining them in her head, and then like you get the shots, which by the way, also there's a Cleveland connection there. The pigs they use there, the farmers were like famous at this time because of this movie, because they were the ones who supplied the pig. I don't know. Cleveland's boring, but there's not a lot going on here. So that, you know, that was cool to have. But like even when she's like grabbing the fish out of the water, she's like trying to punch the shit out of the fish. It's like, man, to be a kid again is like, wild, dude. It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
It's beasts of the southern wild, like literally.
Yeah, the whole sequence also where the storm hits and the whole area is flooded. We see her kind of silently dealing with her father insisting that they stay and ride out the storm, even though they should definitely be evacuating. And you're watching her just sort of reckoning with kind of not liking her father, but still loving him at the same time, and like worried about him and his injuries that happened before, and just, but ultimately deferring to him because he is her father. And it's a lot of face acting, a lot of just processing. So I think it's not always easy for people to see the performance for what it is, but I think her eyes, the way she holds her head up high, you know, I think it does tell a story. And some of it is also like this guilt that she has for feeling like she kind of upset the order of the universe by hitting her father too. But there is so much more asked of her than I think people are even willing to give credit for.
Yeah.
They see her as kind of just like, you know, just
Cute
being
kid.
a kid and doing all these things and not really seeing the process behind what she's doing.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even the journey of the character, she goes from like being a cute kid to invisible, you know, having those imaginary friends, and she becomes a little terrorist in this movie. She blows shit up.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just what it is. Like, it's like, she is such a journey in this movie to be like, what, she's just a kid nomination, just throw it away. It's like, I can't stand people. You may not like it. You may not like the film. You may not understand the film. That's fine. But to just be like, she's a kid, why is she here? You don't understand what it takes to act. That's for like anyone. But that's like, let me rephrase that so this makes more sense. You don't understand the process of what it takes to act in general if you think, again, acting is just line delivery. It's reactionary. That's what acting is. That's what they teach you. And you want, stop spending your money in Juilliard and Yale. You want to become a good actor, become a bartender, become a server. You have to react. You do. The way that this child could do this without having to do that, appreciate what's being done here, and you can appreciate the performance, whether you like the movie or not.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think her clear highlight scene, though, when she is asked to do beyond, you know, that kind of reaction, which is all great, I agree, is when she's like putting the leaves and the twigs and stuff on her father's mouth, and as he's sleeping, and he spits it out and smashes the glass, and she just gets right in his face and like growls back at him and starts and they're like destroying the whole shelter, and it's like her taking all of these wildly conflicting emotions out on this little shelter, and then he starts doing it too, and it becomes like a game, and she's like almost having fun by that point.
Yep.
But then he stumbles and he's clearly in pain, and she just gives him this look because he can't hide it anymore. And she's like, man, you think I don't know? You think I can't see? And
Mm-hmm.
it becomes like this kind of alpha posturing match between the two of them, even though she's obviously upset about her father getting worse and
Right.
maybe on the brink of dying, but like that hurt is there on her face, even as he tries to be all alpha and tough and get her to be tough too and being like, I'm the man, and like flexing. And I think what you're seeing there is a girl who is facing really mature problems and trying her best to be brave about it because, that's what her daddy taught her, and that's what she's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also to go back to the ending real quick is like, when she decides that she has to go back to be with her father again in the end, and is like also standing face to face with that big like pig creature, and is like saying she has to take care of her family and her home, and in the magical realism of this story it makes them obviously go away, which is another, just like the way she handles herself there is a great subtle moment of showing her bravery and her loyalty to her community, and then feeding her father at the end. It's just, I don't know, it's a really beautiful, instinctual, and very naturalistic performance that doesn't really feel like something that would get nominated for an Oscar in most years. And that is me shading the Academy more than the performance, to be clear.
No, legitimately.
But I think, yeah, the emotion and also the world building of the story and the authenticity of it, it's kind of just like this perfect storm. So I'm very happy that the film did as well as it did. And I'm glad that the members watched it and clearly responded to it really well. I think it was a real word of mouth hit.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of members kind of like recommending it to their friends. So I think that's how it happened.
My only question is in the realm of the story, what the hell is CPS? Like what?
Sure.
Where is CPS? My God. But no,
you're like, where is Mariah Carey and Precious to come around and be like,
really? Like, come on. Yeah, great movie, great performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we're on a roll. Jeez. Okay, so many good performances. Let's get to our final losing nominee, Naomi Watts in The Impossible. So getting her second Oscar nomination here, 9 years after her first for 21 Grams. So after that nomination, she's booked and busy in lead roles and supporting roles. She's in I Heart Huckabees, the David O. Russell movie. More on him later. She is the female lead in King Kong, which is a huge mainstream hit for her. The Painted Veil, Eastern Promises, Funny Games, working with Michael Haneke here. Look at her. I'm just like, waiting for her to work with Catherine Bigelow or something, and Ben Zeitlin. But
trifecta.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Quadfecta, yeah.
Quadfecta.
Quadfecta.
New word.
Right?
Yes. But anyway, yeah. Mother and Child, You'll Meet a Tall Dark Stranger, just like working with all kinds of auteurs. And then with The Impossible, this is based on a true story about the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 and the experiences of Maria Bellon and her family, who were on vacation in Thailand when the tsunami hit and ravaged the country, but she and her family managed to survive. So the film, directed by J.A. Bayona, changed the character from Spanish to British, although the real Maria was apparently very involved with the writing of her character, so she seemed to be okay with it, at least at the time, and she actually said Naomi was her favorite actress, especially after seeing 21 Grams. So there you go. It all ties together. So yeah, The Impossible follows the Bennett family. Maria is a doctor who's put her career on the back burner to raise her 3 sons, one of whom is played by Tom Holland in his first film role. And Maria's husband is played by Ewan McGregor. So anyway, when the tsunami hits, she and the Tom Holland son get separated from the others and try to survive after she's injured and try to get her treatment so that she doesn't die. That's the movie. So let's get into it. Naomi Watts, I remember you saying she was your winner in 2003 for 21 Grams. So tell me what you like about Naomi Watts and your thoughts on this performance.
I was literally about to say, this is where we're going to not agree with the first time, because I know you fifth. I was like, so my winner in 2003.
Yeah.
I don't know what magical beans Naomi Watts stole from a witch to get cursed with this, what's been going on. And I'm trying to make that not be as shady as possible, but like,
I know
it's hard. out here for Naomi Watts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is going on with her?
She did just get her first Emmy nomination, to be clear. So
Yes, she did.
for Feud. So that's
Yes,
something.
that's something. But like, woof. What? Okay. I don't understand how, according to Oscar Screen Time Central, she has 41 minutes of screen time, because 41 minutes where? There's no way. I'm bringing out the notes.
Uh-oh.
So the tsunami hits at exactly 13 minutes. Oh, this is detailed. 13,
Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
You got timestamps.
I have timestamps. The tsunami hits at exactly 13 minutes into the movie. Up until this point, we're not even getting to know her character. We're just getting to see like spurts of this family and what they're doing. And like outside of the opening on the plane, we don't know anything about her. Okay. So 13 minutes into this movie, the tsunami hits, and then all of a sudden she's just screaming for exactly 6 minutes straight. And then she's just gone from the movie. 41 minutes where? And why is she, if she's getting nominated for an Oscar, why isn't she in supporting? Because this is not, Mama, this is not a lead performance. You know who's the lead? The tsunami. You know who's the lead? Tom Holland. Because this is a supporting performance. But where is the performance? When I said if any of these five won, it'd be a good win, yes. But not in lead. Because this is supporting. Also, LOL, for the first time I ever noticed this, there's the point right after the tsunami hits where she's like on the log. And then you see like, I laughed so hard. Oh God, that's so funny to me. You see like this car drifting. And I never noticed that there's this baby crying out of the car. And then all of a sudden it gets yeeted into the afterlife because it's hit by another fucking wave. And this baby's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And Naomi Watts is just watching it go down on this log. And I'm like, what was this director thinking? Here's the thing. She's really good to portray pain, and she's good at screaming.
That is her specialty.
Yes. We've all seen The Ring. You know, shout out to Karen Black because she was in Children of the Corn 4 with Karen Black. Like, we've seen her scream. She does it well. But what is this? Sally Field's twink? I need you to tell me because I'm not seeing it. I'm not. What is it? That's all I got.
Okay. Wow.
All I got, Kevin.
Well, there will be another person I'm going to cite who really loved this performance later on in the questions, which you'll see, which I also have questions for this particular person. Anyway, yeah, this is an interesting nomination just because it is so physical and there's not a lot of it that is very dialogue heavy. So the performance is mostly in her expressions and her reactions to the environment, swimming through the water, hobbling on her leg that's injured, screaming, lying on the hospital bed. It's really not your traditional sort of performance that gets nominated here, especially in lead, but it's also very much in line with her first nomination in terms of suffering and feeling drained by the end of it, and just like imagining how tough it was for her to put herself through all of it. Obviously 21 Grams is a very different movie in that respect, but also it's just the similar kind of like, this woman is being put through the ringer, this time in a very physical way in this case. So I will say I think the Oscars should be given credit here also for when they do give nominations for performances like this that are very physical and primal, because it is so easy to come out of something like this, you know, looking ridiculous, or just like her hamming up the reactions and everything, or even going the other way with it and the audience not really believing she's really in pain. I, all the way through this, do find it pretty remarkable how much she's able to pull off the illusion of her actually being in incredible pain and misery.
Yeah.
And I do feel for her. And I think because of the way the film is structured, where we just get her and Tom Holland for the first like 40 minutes, I guess, that's most of her screen time is in that first act. Then she's just in the hospital bed and we're following Ewan McGregor as he's trying to reunite with her. There are times when I do think that the impact of her performance isn't quite there. Like I talked about with Jessica Chastain, like you still feel her presence when she's not on screen. I don't quite feel the same way with Naomi Watts, unfortunately. there's not a lot she can personally do about that ultimately. So I don't know if I put the blame on the film or her performance or the voters. I don't know. But it doesn't quite compare to the others that we talked about, even though I still think it's a very good performance. And she's going to give it her all every time.
Yeah, I need to be very clear. I don't think it's a bad performance. It's good. I agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not enough to justify a lead nomination, number one. And there's not enough, like this, I feel like, this was the Anne Hathaway year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maybe no one was beating her. No, like I'm not even gonna say she probably would have had a better shot in supporting. No,
if she was in supporting, I think she'd be higher up in the eventual vote win totals.
Yeah. This is a clear 5th place. Like you just know that this was last place. It was, and it was.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much everything. A lot of it is just those emotional reactions of just like trying to survive this. And it's very physical, very demanding, just the like blood curdling screams as she's trying to reunite with her son and is in like this dirty water and everything. It's very raw, obviously, and gets these horrible injuries, painful to watch. But of course, she does have those nicer moments, like when he says something about like he's a brave kid but now he's scared, and she just hugs him and like tries to settle him down, and she doesn't lie to him. She says she's scared too, and just like the gratitude that at least she still has her son, like that she's not alone in that. You know, it is very primal, just basic sort of emotions that we're talking about there, but I still think it's very believable that they are mother and son, and that there is a lived history there and a feeling that like they're on the same wavelength more than she is with anyone else in her family, even her husband, quite frankly. So that is believable. I think Tom Holland is also very good here. I don't know what your thoughts are on Tom Holland particularly, but I think this is honestly kind of his best performance.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, also too, that he's kind of really pigeonholed at this point in Marvel. So like,
yeah,
Cherry didn't work. That other one didn't work. Yeah, I mean, this is the Tom Holland show.
Yeah.
I like him here, and I don't usually like children, which is also wild that I like Quvenzhané Wallis in this.
Yeah, it is weird,
right? But yeah, I mean, they're. See, if this was done now, if this would had been done a few years later, like this would have been Jacob Tremblay in this role for sure.
Yeah,
like
probably. Yep.
Oh, so good. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm trying not again to be shady. I just don't have anything to say for this one. It's just there. She's a clear-cut 5th. She's good, but there's nothing there to justify this lead nomination for me. There's not. I'm sorry. This is the one that you're not going to get a whole lot from me. I'm trying. I don't want to just try and kill time, but I'm like, I don't know.
I think it is a very good physical performance that is also, it's like we don't get a super clear-cut picture of who she is outside of the circumstances that she's in.
Yeah.
Which is always going to be tough to really talk about like a performance in terms of that, because it's just like,
it's the lack of writing.
She's doing a lot of screaming.
Yeah. There's no development of Maria. Maria is there to suffer. And who loves to suffer? Naomi Watts.
She does.
Yeah.
She's made a whole industry out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, weirdly, a lot of remakes. I don't know. Like, there's a whole section on, like, the intro of her Wikipedia page that's like, she specializes in films about pain and suffering and also remakes.
Yep.
And I'm just like, who wrote this? But, like, not wrong.
No, not wrong at all. And I mean... Funny Games, Suffering, and a remake. So she got 2 in 1 there. Like,
yeah, or Good Night, Mommy.
Oh my God, I forgot that she was in that.
Yeah.
And then what's crazy too is that like her, which is also like weird, 'cause a couple of years later, that Princess Diana movie she did, Jessica Chastain was signed on to do that, and then that bombed. And I'm like, again, what beans did you steal? What witch did you piss off? Like, she's like I said, she's my winner for 2003, but that's all I got for her.
Yeah, that's fair. Just to, I guess, wrap it up here, I do love the moment after she has like the surgery and it's a big success at the end, and the whole family's on the plane back, and her son is telling her that this other boy that they rescued was reunited with his father, and then just like this outpouring of emotion just kind of washes over her and totally like deflates all the tension she had in her face and her body and just kind of relaxes into it. It's just a nice moment in the end. And then her looking out the window and just like seeing all the destruction and having the welling up of tears and just fully crying in the end. I think that is maybe where people could justify her as a lead, is that we kind of end with her in that way. But yeah, I don't disagree that at the very least I would call this a borderline performance. So
I'm just imagining a sequel where it picks up exactly where this one left off, and then the plane crashes. And then it's like the family just dealt with the tsunami, and now they got the plane crash. And then it turns out the twist that they were actually on the Malaysian flight. So it's just like,
my God,
it's just one thing after another for this
very Final Destination.
Right, right. Death is like, damn, girl, you're back.
So let's get to our winner, Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook. All right. So Jennifer Lawrence, even though it's only been 2 years since her first nomination for Winter's Bone, her entire life and career basically changes in the course of these 2 years. So following Winter's Bone, she had a few things like Crazy and The Beaver, which was actually filmed before Winter's Bone. But another big development is her being vaulted into blockbuster stardom because she played Mystique in X-Men First Class, which was well received. And then 2012, we have the first Hunger Games movie, highly anticipated, and she's playing the lead role, which totally catapults her to A-list stardom. The film comes out in March, and then Silver Linings Playbook is out in the fall, so she has this great double feature here of like huge public blockbuster hit followed by awards darling later in the year. So it was really the year of Jennifer Lawrence. So she got involved with Silver Linings after much consideration of others, because Anne Hathaway was originally lined up for the role, but apparently she had creative differences with David O. Russell. Imagine. There was a big list of names considered, like Angelina Jolie, Kirsten Dunst, Rachel McAdams, Andrea Riseborough, Elizabeth Banks, Blake Lively, Rooney Mara. A lot of the bigger names in this era, and also a lot of them older than Jennifer Lawrence was at the time. But David O. Russell was apparently really taken with Jennifer's sort of ageless quality, as he said, and so she got the part. So Silver Linings Playbook, based on the book by Matthew Quick, and it's about a Philadelphia man named Pat Solitano, played by Bradley Cooper, who has bipolar disorder, and he's returned home from an 8-month stay at a psych hospital. He's now estranged from his wife Nikki and desperately wants to rekindle things with her. So as he's staying at his parents' house, he ends up meeting his best friend's sister-in-law, Tiffany, Jennifer Lawrence, a young widow who is also dealing with mental health issues, and they form a connection, and she convinces him to compete in a dance competition with her as a way of showing his ex-wife that he's changed so he can get her back. But Tiffany is actually having some feelings for Pat through this whole process, which makes things complicated and messy and wonderful. So yes, Jennifer Lawrence, let's get right into it. Jennifer Lawrence as an actress and her Oscar-winning performance.
This is the only David O. Russell movie that I actually really like. Actually like it. Like, I really, really like Silver Linings. It features really good performances. It stars delightfully Jackie Weaver in what should have been her second Oscar win. I
knew you were going to come in with that. Yep.
I'm so predictable. It's delightful. Yeah. You know, it's next to A Star Is Born. It's Bradley's best nomination, and it should have been his first win. It should have been a win for De Niro. And then you have Jennifer Lawrence, who is so massively successful at this time, who actually wins. And the thing is that she's too young for this role. She's way too young for this role. And the experience of what this character needs, it shows. It's like Florence Pugh in Little Women, who should not have been in that role. She was way too old for that role. And then it's like the next year when Jennifer Lawrence is back with O. Russell in American Hustle, she's way too young for that role as well. Tiffany, I don't buy her for 1 second that Tiffany is this widow of like 6-year marriage or something, and she's such a baby face, and some of her line deliveries just don't work. And again, it goes to the freaking Oscar clip that I'm just a giant slut. Ha! I'm like, it's such a forced line delivery. It's so fake. It's playing for the back of the audience, but it's playing for the audience who's also waiting in standby. It's so doesn't belong on film. She was just too immature for this role. And again, I said earlier, any 5 of these could have won. It would have been a good win. Yeah, it would have been a good win. This was a good win, but is it a great win? No, this is not a great win. Jennifer Lawrence was riding high off of the wave of Lawrence that year, off of the nomination that is still her best nomination, in my opinion, of Winter's Bone to this day. She was riding high off of the celebrity status that the Hunger Games gave her, and she had Harvey Weinstein in her back pocket. I mean, again, you go back to that monologue she did on SNL, and she's really into it and drags every actress and goes, "Oh, but I love your performance. Oh, but I love you." And it's like everything about it, looking back on it, especially, is so not, I don't want to say not relatable, but what's the word I'm looking for? It almost comes off unlikable. Like it comes off so fake and phony and
inauthentic.
Thank you. It's not authentic. Words. It just comes off so not authentic. And then it really makes you think, did the performance win, or were you just really worn out by the end of it? To kind of quote Sandra Bullock. And I think at this point, we were just so worn out because she was everywhere. Jennifer Lawrence became such a big star that she had to take time off because people got sick of her. Like, you can give me the excuse all you want of like, oh, I need to take time off to start a family. You got because people were tired of you. You were oversaturated. But that's the dangerous game of Hollywood. Because since she's taken her time off, she hasn't been able to come back to her glory days. And this was her glory days. Do you take off time and then become a quote unquote has-been for a little while and have a big comeback? Maybe. But she was so oversaturated that she hasn't been able to bounce back yet. That shows you that we got sick of her as an audience, as a country, as a world, of seeing Jennifer Lawrence everywhere. We got so sick of her that she got so sick of playing Mystique. She was like, kill me off. I'm done. I'm done. This role is mature beyond the years that she was able to bring to it. It's good. It's not great. It seems very forced in a lot of the line deliveries. And this was a Harvey Weinstein win, full stop. I'm going to say it. This was a campaign win because she was everywhere.
Well, I think it was also her getting sick of being the Jennifer Lawrence that, was always in the media kind of thing. That is also part of why she stepped away, because even she felt like she was probably getting overexposed. So I do want to, acknowledge that she was self-aware enough to realize that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. But to speak to this performance in this film, I really like Silver Linings Playbook too. I think it's easily the best of this little 4-film era of David O. Russell, from like The Fighter to Joy. And I just think it's a fun movie, and it's not trying to be anything too serious about mental illness or like big subjects like that, but it also doesn't like fully brush things off either. So I don't know. I do think it threads the needle very well, and I do think there is a great screwball energy to the film that I really enjoy, especially when it's like Robert De Niro and Jackie Weaver getting involved, and it's just like these actors sort of bouncing off each other. Also, I have to say, watching it again, I did find it very nostalgic, even though it was only like 12 years ago that it was released. But it's just something about like the dynamics here and the sort of human element of the film that really resonated with me in 2012 and brought me back to that place, for better or for worse. So anyway, having said all that, I really like or love all the performances in this film, especially Bradley Cooper. And so the Jennifer Lawrence part of it is interesting because my feelings have changed pretty much with each rewatch, because I was totally all in on the Jennifer Lawrence stock in 2012 and was completely head over heels charmed by her. You know, then as time went on and I've rewatched a few times over the years, I definitely have felt that criticism of her being too young for the role and it feeling a little bit overacted at times. So I sort of had that in mind as I was going into this rewatch. And now seeing it again, I feel like I'm sort of in the middle of those two things where like I feel like I've come back to at least appreciating the energy she gives to the performance and how it relates to everyone else. Because like her introduction comes in around like the 25-minute mark, to speak to timestamps there, but it takes quite a while to get her in here. And to her credit, I do think she does make a very strong first impression, even if it's maybe a little strange to see her and then, see her face and then juxtapose that with her being a widow and clearly taking on this like older sensibility because she just has such a baby face at this time. But she does the best she can with it. And I do think her banter with Bradley Cooper is very natural. Like that lingering look she gives him when it's time to like tour the house in the beginning and does this little head tip, I think is very charming. I do think there's an aspect to the film that is very in love with Tiffany and like how cool she is, but I do think she takes it and runs with it, and her comedic skills really are coming into play here, and her sense of timing and that charisma, and just at that first dinner scene, not the diner scene, but first dinner scene where they bond over like their medications that they're both taking. And then eventually being like, I'm tired, I want to go home. Are you going to take me home or what? Just like the bluntness there, I think is really fun, but also tapping into the sort of manic darkness there too. And feeling like other people, like normal people, quote unquote, don't get her. They don't understand her. And at least like she and Pat are like truth tellers almost. Like they don't beat around the bush, right? So that part I do think she is a natural at, personally. I think that back and forth screwball energy, I think she really nails. It's just like when you dive down and look at like who she is supposed to be and like, the information we've been given about her being a widow and her having these mental health issues, that's where I think maybe some of the performance doesn't quite live up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable film. It's an enjoyable performance. What I'm nitpicking at is the age thing, and I'm so stuck on that because I'm a big stickler for that. Like I said, she did it again the next year with American Hustle, then Pew did it in 2019 with Little Women, and it's just like you could be too young for something, but you can never be like you can always play older, but like there's something about a character needing to be a certain age at a young point where it's like, does that make sense? Or am I just nitpicking too much?
And having the life experience.
Yes.
Part of
okay.
it.
There it is. Yes. That's it. I'll tell you what, I to this day, though, what is so fascinating to me is Philadelphia. And because this is a movie where you really do feel its location is also a character because there's so much of it's like Rocky. It's like literally Philadelphia with Tom Hanks. There's so much of Philadelphia here. So, I was doing stand-up comedy for a couple of years, and I actually was on my on tour that finished in Punchline Philly, January of 2020. It was the last stop of my tour, and I went to Philadelphia. I'm like, does anyone know what a fire and ice cake is, or like what are Krabby Snacks and homemades? And like nobody in Philadelphia can know. So that's still like the biggest mystery to me about this movie. Speaking of that first dinner, when she's like, I made fire and ice cake. Like, what the hell is that? But like, I love that. There's a nostalgia feel of that time with these movies. And again, maybe we're in our early adulthood. It's our early 20s, but like this and Perks of Being a Wallflower and.
Totally.
Like it's like when you had that needle drop and it was like MGMT and Sleepyhead and like I yearn for that era.
Alabama Shakes.
Oh my God, yes. So I get that nostalgia because for me that was a really good time in my life. I was coming off of living in, California and doing my own thing, and bills didn't feel. The Obama administration was a great time in its second term. I'm just saying, like, it was so great. And that's what I yearn for now, is like that feeling that these movies gave me. That's why 2012 is I love it so much, despite its ups and downs. Like, that's why I was like, I want to do this year, please, if you have me back. Yeah, I get it. The movie as a whole is great. Jennifer Lawrence is good. Jackie Weaver is phenomenal. Robert De Niro is great. Bradley Cooper, phenomenal. But I have my little small nitpicks, and the age thing is it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. To speak to that diner scene when they're at the diner, which is quite famous, and it is her Oscar clip, very divisive from what I've seen because she does go pretty big.
It's like Rita Repulsa, like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, hamming it up.
Right.
But I do like her energy in the build up to that moment, to her big explosion, where she's kind of like teasing him and testing the limits to kind of see if he'll get scared off by what she's saying. And, you know, she just has this kind of deadpan tone that I do think is very funny and dry. And she said she slept with the whole office and being like, I was very depressed after Tommy died. It was a lot of people. I just like her kind of just like continuing, because she knows that what she's saying is kind of like getting a rise out of Pat. And so she knows she's just going to keep pushing the limits. And like when he asks if she ever slept with women, and she says yes. And he's like, what was that like? And she was like, hot.
He like comes in his pants at the diner. He's like,
yeah. And then of course she does get set off when he acts like, you know, he's basically less mentally ill than her. That's kind of like what she's taking offense by. I will say I do like the moment when she realizes what he's saying there, and she gives him this like disgusted look of being like, oh my God, in that way. I don't know how else to describe it.
yeah.
But, you know, taking on that sarcastic tone and saying she's crazy and cackling and throwing everything off the table. Big moment, very big moment. I agree that just like the intensity there is a little tiny bit forced, but
Less is more.
yes. And then the scene right after that in the street, she keeps like pushing back on him, but you also see in her eyes that she empathizes with him in a way, and the pain that he's in, even if she's too proud to admit that like things got a little out of hand there.
Yeah.
So I think when she is allowed to have those more subtle moments, I do think she thrives in that.
I'd agree.
The problem is that the film is just like so crazy screwball energy for a lot of it that she kind of has to play into that too, and it doesn't always work,
right?
Unfortunately.
Fun little fact, when they're in front of the movie theater there's a poster for Midnight Meat Train starring Bradley Cooper as the movie that's playing for Halloween.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I was like,
that's funny.
Midnight Meat Train. I was like, that's a multiverse. We have this we have the Silver Linings multiverse going on here.
I would like to see more. I would like a prequel with Jackie Weaver's character. How did she get to this place?
Yes. How is she making
developing her Krabby Patty homemades?
Yes. We need
empire.
You know what's wild is that Emma Thompson was offered that role, and then turned it down, and that's when Jackie got it. And I was like, good for her.
I think I would have preferred Jackie there too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if Emma would be the best fit for that. So I'm glad things worked out the way they did.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole runner with her claiming to have like this communication with his wife in order to get him to do this dance with her is interesting, because I do think it speaks to her sort of pathology. I don't know if that's too strong a word, but like her using these manipulation tactics to get what she wants.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of sad because like she knows she can't form a healthy connection with him or with anyone maybe without essentially like tricking them into it. And I do think, again, like in those subtle moments, you see that look of guilt a little bit on her face when she's doing this, because she sees how much he is investing in this. And part of her might know that it's going to come out at some point what the truth is here, that she has been making up this connection the whole time.
Yeah.
And she's sort of prepared for it, but also like she's in too deep and she can't just like stop now.
Yeah. One little lie can really turn into like a giant mountain of shit. And she finds herself there. And I think that's one of the great examples of where she does really, really well here, because she knows she's there and she's like, how do I dig myself out of it? And again, kudos where kudos needs to be. Another part that really sticks out to me is when she confronts Bob De Niro on the game. And what's their friend's name? She's like, shut up, Sam. My dad hates you. You owe money or something, whatever the hell his name was. But like, I think her comedic timing there is great. And I would have preferred that to be her Oscar clip scene for sure.
Definitely.
But I like the little sass that she brings with it. I am still trying to picture a world where like Rooney's in this role or Anne Hathaway or whatnot. And again, I can't because
Yeah,
of the
that's the
sassiness. So
thing.
just despite my complaints of it, I don't know how I see anybody else in that role. But you know what
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah.
I agree.
I mean, that's the pop culture zeitgeist of this movie, especially at that time. You know,
Yeah, it's really hard to divorce that it's her from the role.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
for as many complaints as you may have, you know?
Yeah. Sissy Spacek will always be Carrie. Jennifer Lawrence will always be Tiffany.
And also that scene, just watching it again, her big confronting Robert De Niro there about like how she is not actually like the bad juju in terms of, you know, the Eagles, you know, losing in certain times and everything. It reminds me a little bit of like the Julia Roberts speech with Aaron Eckhart in front of the house in Aaron Brockovich, where it's just like kind of an obvious, like pronounced sort of scene, but I do enjoy how totally locked in she is and like doesn't let Robert De Niro offer up a single excuse in return and just like cuts through all this superstitious bullshit and he just has to sort of sheepishly admit that she's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, going toe to toe with Robert De Niro and dominating the scene, that's no joke.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. That is good for her. Good
for her. Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. So last little bit here, the whole, you know, climax scene where she sees that Nikki has been invited to come see Pat after all at the dance competition, and that look of total like
heartbreak,
embarrassment, and like almost mortification on her face. And yeah, heartbreak is really well done. And in a way, I think that's where you see where her youth is kind of a plus, because there's something about it where it's just like such a pure sadness that she feels because she knows this relationship could be over after tonight even. And yeah, there's just something that feels very like young person who had to grow up too fast, sort of like Winter's Bone even. But obviously this is a very different character, but tapping into a similar-ish kind of energy. Obviously things work out in the end and it's a happy ever after, but yeah, I think that again it's like those little moments that she's allowed to give of lingering on her face a few beats more than normal that she thrives in.
Yeah, and the more I'm thinking about it too is that she actually did this 3 times with O. Russell because she's way too young for Joy.
Yes.
Way too young for Joy. And I still think I'm not going to be here obviously for that episode. And I know you can't really say anything on it, but like, can we just comment really quick how Joy was marketed as a mob movie and it was really a mop movie? Like what? Like, you go back to that trailer, it's a mob movie. No, it's a mop movie.
Yeah, the way Isabella Rossellini is like talking to her about like, you know, seizing whatever. I don't even remember. I haven't seen it since 2015. I just remember her like intense line delivery.
I have that on Blu-ray and I've never watched it. Like, I mean, I've seen the movie, but I think I bought it for like $1. I never watched it. It's just insane there. It's like
sounds about right.
It's like Jackie. I'll never watch Jackie, but I have it. Like I've seen it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Physical media.
Yes. Very important.
Yeah. So I think it is a very good performance, even if we do have nitpicks that I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, while at the same time also still feeling like who else could have done this specifically in this way in 2012.
Yeah.
So
Joan Cusack.
Hard to fault it too much. Joan Cusack, why not? Yes.
Put Emmanuelle Riva in this role.
Wow. She could do it. You know what? She's very versatile.
Yes, she is.
Okay. So let's get to these Oscars here.
Yes.
We can talk about why Jennifer won. So for the precursors, Jessica Chastain did the best of the ultimate Oscar nominees here, winning National Board of Review, Online Film Critics, Chicago, Washington, D.C. She did very well. Emmanuelle Riva won LA Film Critics in a tie with Jennifer Lawrence. She won National Society of Film Critics, Boston, London, so, you know, she was no slouch either. Jennifer Lawrence, again, won that LA Film Critics Award, the Independent Spirit Award, but not much else. Quvenzhané Wallis and Naomi Watts didn't really get many kind of critics wins necessarily, but once we got to major precursors, all 5 were nominated at Critics' Choice, where Jessica Chastain won. Jessica also won at the Golden Globes for drama. Jennifer Lawrence won for comedy. The two of them were basically the only ones nominated everywhere. Naomi Watts was not nominated at BAFTA, but got in everywhere else. Emmanuelle Riva won the BAFTA, which was a big wrench thrown in the race there. Jennifer Lawrence, of course, won at SAG. So, yeah, in terms of the Oscar nomination morning, the fun inclusions of Emmanuelle Riva and Quvenzhané Wallis were another wrench in the race. I think neither of them were nominated at Globes or SAG, and Wallis wasn't even nominated at BAFTA, so she only really had a Critics' Choice mention in terms of like major precursor love. So anyway, a very exciting lineup, an exciting race with no sweeper, thank God, but Jennifer Lawrence was our winner in the end. Why did this happen for her? I feel like you've already kind of talked about it a lot in terms of like her big year and everything, but why else?
Sorry, I've jumped the gun twice now, giving my winner and then that.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry, Kevin.
It's okay.
Well, again, so you have to think. I can't believe I'm quoting that horrible Ryan McQuaid right now, but every year has to tell a story, right? And there was a big story here. I mean, you're fresh off of Winter's Bone. You're in a breakout moment in your career where you're not just an indie darling anymore. I mean, that picture that I sent you for 2010 that I had was literally Jennifer Lawrence at Sundance the night before Winter's Bone premiered, where her whole life changed.
Yep.
She was literally Jenny from the Ozarks, and then like, boom, she's Jennifer Lawrence. And or Appalachia, that was it, not the Ozarks. She was Ozarks in Winter's Bone. You look back to a story like Cher, 1987, not to bring up harsh wounds for you, Kevin, but like,
yeah, I'm used to it.
All right. You had the Sally Kirkland, who was right on her tail the whole time. You had the love of popularity, pop culture zeitgeist of Glenn Close, Meryl Streep. Then you had Holly Hunter in her big breakout. But you had Cher, who is returning after a snub 2 years later. You then had she was in 3 back-to-back hit movies. She had an album with If I Turn Back Time. Like, there was a story to be told there. Take that idea and bring it then to Jennifer Lawrence. There's a story with Natalie Portman where she swept everything. There's a story with Meryl Streep versus Viola Davis and like Meryl's third. Then you have this story where it's the big come up after 2 years. You've got 2 big franchises catapulting you to stardom. You go from making 3,000 a week to 20 million like that. And you have Harvey Weinstein. Harvey played we're not to the Me Too era yet. Harvey's still a big player for the next couple of years here. I'm not going to ever be like credit where credit's due for Harvey, but at the same time, credit's due where credit's due here because he controlled this era of the Academy. He sank his teeth and like venomous viper let his poison in, and they're still trying to clean up from that. Yeah. That's just the truth of it. Yeah, I mean, there were so many factors, but there was a story to be told, and that's why she won.
Yeah, I think this is one of those perfect storm Oscar wins where she had a fantastic year. She was the star of the year. She made a lot of money for the industry, and she proved she had the acting chops too. She was a previous nominee also, so, fully living up to the promise of that first nomination and probably highly exceeding expectations even from 2 years ago with just how quickly she became a star. But yeah, I think what really matters in this race is that, and this is highly subjective because like that's what comedy is, especially compared to drama, but she is very funny and likable, and you don't have to work too hard to appreciate her performance. Even compared to like a Emmanuelle Riva or Quvenzhané Wallis or even Jessica Chastain, like it's just, you see the work very clearly in what she's doing and the lines that she's given to say compared to everyone else. I think it's also abundantly clear that voters preferred Silver Linings Playbook the most out of the 5 films here, even though, to the Academy's credit, 4 of the 5 films here are nominated for Best Picture also, which is very rare for Best Actress. But seeing all of that acting nomination love it got, including that surprise Jackie Weaver nomination and the director nomination and like film editing, like it clearly had this across the board love. And I think just a rooting interest in terms of like, this is a well-made romantic comedy for adults, sort of like Moonstruck, honestly. So I think the film really helped, but yeah, she was on the campaign trail. She did have the charm offensive, really well liked. And yeah, like when you look at the 5 films here, many of them about really difficult subjects, it's so easy to watch Silver Linings Playbook. I'm sure almost everyone saw it, and that matters a lot, just visibility. And yeah, it's a Weinstein movie, and he was very invested in just pushing the shit out of this movie, even trying to make it into a kind of like commentary about mental health. I don't know if you remember that whole like campaign that he had for the film itself to win Best Picture, but it started to get a little crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she's so charming and winning, and her character is so appealing that I think it was just like a vibes thing. People really loved her vibe and wanted to be a part of it. And she got a good, good showcase scenes here in the film. And that's what did it in the end. I also think it may have helped her that probably Emmanuelle Riva and Jessica Chastain and probably even Quvenzhané Wallis had support as the sort of like more dramatic, quote unquote, alternative to her. And none of them were seen as like undeniable for one reason or another. So it's like that whole like, I don't want to say they split the vote, but there wasn't a consensus necessarily of like, it's her versus her, and that's it. Like, it was kind of like, it could be like 3 or 4 of them and not between 2.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that just like, that's why I said earlier when we started this, like 4 of these actually had a shot to win. And then, Naomi Watts, because the story that was being told with Jennifer Lawrence is also being told in different ways with the other 3. Jessica Chastain's got sour though because of the controversy that it was then stormed up with Zero Dark 30 and then it missing like director and yada yada yada. But you had the storylines of could it be the youngest ever, and look how it overperformed, and we could really make history here. We could also really make history here, and look how Amour overperformed with the oldest one. 4 of them had a story that could have been a win.
Yeah.
It's so, as we know, these are very political games. It's so rare that we get wins that are just based off of academia. Like, it's,
as Monique would say, yes, performance, not politics, but it is often about politics.
Right. So, this was Jennifer Lawrence's. She won it.
Yep, she did. She tripped up the stage on her way there.
She did. That
also happened.
I also, oh my God, I forgot. I always forget how hot Jean Dujardin is. Where is he? I need that.
Where is he?
Back.
Great question. Yes. Lovely speech. In this one, she did not thank Harvey Weinstein, which I think is good for historical purposes because more people will watch this speech than her Globe speech, where she says something about like whoever you had to kill to get me this. Basically, she calls out Harvey. And even at SAG, she thanked Harvey Weinstein. So, not great for historical purposes looking back on those speeches, but this is the one that mattered.
Yeah.
And it's nice, charming. Good stuff.
This is also the last time we ever saw Jack Nicholson at the Oscars.
I know. Yeah.
That dude, that resurfacing picture that came out like a year ago of him just chilling on his balcony with no shirt. I'm like, let that man rest. Like, that's goals.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. He's doing it right. Okay, well, we will get to who we think the runner-up was later on, but I don't think it's as clear-cut as some people may think, so we'll talk about it.
Yes.
All right, let's get to some Twitter questions.
Let's do it.
People had a lot to say on this one. Here we go. Starting with Amour, who said, is Jennifer Lawrence among the worst winners of this category?
No. It's not great, but she's good, but no, I wouldn't put her at one of the worst. I wouldn't even put her like top 20, to be honest.
No, I agree. There are worse for me, and also movies that I would just never want to watch again, period, that have won this category. So that doesn't help either. But no, I would not put her among the worst.
Yeah.
I think she gets a lot of shit because of the competitions that she beat, more than is deserved of the individual performance she's given. The Ghost of Glenda Miss Jackson If You Nasty said, if the Hunger Games opened the next year, does this change anything with Lawrence's momentum to a win, or did the performance speak for itself to clinch the win?
I don't think it really changes anything because, again, she was already becoming, well, she was a big name by the time X-Men had come out, and that came out first the year before. Hunger Games just pushed it over the edge to where we started getting that instant oversaturation with her. So again, she still had Harvey. She had this big hit of a movie. she was winning this. I don't think the Hunger Games being pushed back a year would have changed it at all.
Yeah, I think she probably still wins, but maybe it would have been a little closer if she isn't a full-blown, like, superstar. But yeah, I think the Hunger Games success was just kind of the cherry on top for voters to be like, see, we're also relevant. We're speaking to an actress people like, that the general public likes at least.
Yep.
Jim said, how much did Harvey's strong arm tactics contribute to Jennifer's win?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I never want to give credit to him, but there is credit to be here. He ran this shit for almost 20 years. He knew how to play the game. And a lot of this that people don't realize is a game. Listen, I complain all the time. It needs to be about performance, not the politics. I say it all the time. Every time I give an Oscar to somebody, it's based on performance only. But I know that's not reality. And Harvey played so much into this.
Yeah. Agreed. I have nothing to add there, unfortunately. It's just the reality of what this town was run on. And like you said, we're still trying to clean it up a little. Yeah. And sadly, I think there are still people in the industry working today, probably, who have taken from his tactics.
Yep.
So, moving on.
Yes.
Both Zoe G and Levi want to know what would have happened here if Anne Hathaway, the original Tiffany, had stayed with Silver Linings Playbook. Does she win for lead? Does she win for supporting? If she's like double nominated or something, like what's the situation?
I love a good revisionist history question because God knows I asked them myself.
Yes.
If it's the same lineup in both categories, this may very well have been the first time we ever got a double winner.
Yeah, I mean,
truly, I don't see how it goes any other way still. But that also plays on to if everything else stays the same. Does the controversy happen with Zero Dark 30? Does blah blah blah? Let's say it does. We have our first double winner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how successful the film would have been if it were Anne Hathaway in the role. Like, I get why she was chosen at this time, but I don't know if she would have had the same kind of even like chemistry with Bradley Cooper. I'm sure she could have made it work. She's a very good actress, but either way, I think she is winning at least one Oscar if she is in both. My instinct is that she still wins supporting, and maybe it goes to someone else in lead, but yeah, it is surprisingly likely that she could have done both, which would have been wild.
Well, think of 2012 too for her. They would have been. She had a Jennifer Lawrence year. She had Dark Knight
Rises. Right. Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises. She's got Les Mis. I mean, she was Jennifer Lawrence that year. They have the same story.
Food for thought.
Right.
Matt Duffy said, initially, David O. Russell thought Jennifer Lawrence was too young for Tiffany. She was 21. The role was written with Zooey Deschanel in mind. Anne Hathaway dropped out, and Angelina Jolie was considered. Would the film work for you with any of those women, or was J-Law the best?
No, the movie doesn't work for me with any of those. And I said it earlier. Yeah. As much as I, again, would love to see my queen, Miss Rooney, in this role, I can't imagine anybody else in this role. So I think, what we got, it was the best option.
Yeah, I cannot possibly see how Angelina Jolie would have fit this role.
It's
just so different from the film we got that I can't even imagine it. Yeah, Zooey Deschanel, I get the quirky factor of it, but I don't think that would be great. But I suppose Anne Hathaway would have fit the best, but I'm actually, kind of okay with how things ended up.
Yeah.
Miles McHale said, J-Law wins for a film with a nomination in all 4 acting categories. Which Best Actress win from one of these situations is your favorite? Here we go, big list here. Greer Garson, Jane Wyman, Jane Fonda, 1978, Faye Dunaway, Vivien Leigh, 51, Kate Hepburn, 67, Liz Taylor, 66, or J-Law?
Well, definitely not the trash of Vivien Leigh.
Okay,
Greer
we
Garson.
can move on from that. Not Greer Garson.
I like Greer Garson, but I don't like.
I know.
I don't like any other of the winners there. None of those people are my winner, and I don't even know if I've seen everyone in Greer's lineup there. But she's the only one who I'm like, okay, Greer Garson, because
Well, it's definitely Liz Taylor in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf for me, but.
Wait, who else is? That's the Anoka Me year. Who else is in that? Because I know she's not my winner that year.
Ida Kaminska.
No, that's supporting. No, I mean, like, she's a supporting role, but yeah.
think it's the others,
Oh,
the two Redgrave
yes,
sisters,
Georgie
Lynn
girl,
and Vanessa.
Georgie girl's my winner.
Yeah, she's my runner-up there.
Lynn. Oh, Lynn.
Yes, Miss Lynn. Yes. All right. Another one from Miles. What 20-ish star nowadays would you like to spar with a Bradley Cooper or De Niro in a wild scene about the Eagles capping off by cracking open a beer and saying, "I'm Tiffany, by the way"?
Why don't you
This is a
mention
long
Jackie
way of
Weaver?
asking.
Why don't you mention Jackie Weaver in that, huh?
Yeah, fair. Long way of asking who would we cast in this role today.
You go first. I want to hear what you got.
My first instinct was Zendaya.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of like spunk, and I just feel like she is also someone who's starting to be cast in roles that are like slightly too old or like she is too young for. I feel like that is someone that they would pick.
Okay. I'm gonna bounce off Zendaya and go Alexa Demi. If we're gonna stick with the Euphoria girls.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just throw in Sydney Sweeney while we're at it. I don't think she would be good in it, but
no.
Yeah, I think Alexa Demi would be good.
Yeah, Alexa Demi would be cool. Or do you remember that movie? I feel like we're just no, Maria Bakalova.
Oh boy, now that would have been a good follow up to Borat.
Yeah, I'm
a big Star is Born kind of thing too. There,
I'm only going to see that Trump movie because of her, and I'm like, ugh, but she's getting me through it. So I know that she gets into it from the trailer with him. So I'm like, yeah, Maria Bakalova would be good.
Nice, yeah. The possibility of Wood said, if Lawrence was running supporting, as she should, who wins, her or Anne?
Define as she should.
That's what they said.
Okay, so in that realm, Anne still wins. And I don't even like Anne. I cannot stand Les Miserables, let alone Anne Hathaway in that movie. But Anne still wins.
Yeah, I think it's close, but...
Very close.
Yeah, that is just one of those roles and performances where it felt like the minute she was even cast, she had the Oscar.
When her bald-headed hoe ass was spotted on set and they snapped a photo, all of those damn pundits were like, oh, she's got it in the bag. Shut up! Let us see it first. She could have Pia-Zadored her way into that role and it would have been terrible. Shut up! Like, you know who else has been bald? Homer Simpson. Where's his Oscar buzz? Where was Sinead O'Connor's Oscar buzz when she's ripping up the poster? Bald-headed hoes are be getting some Oscar. I'm going to shave my head bald. Where's my Oscar buzz? I'm done.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's true. A lot of the pundits were just it's like that meme where it's just like, oh, she's taking it.
Yep, she's taking it.
Yeah. Okay. Champ Reviewer said, with the controversy about Zero Dark 30, do you believe that the controversy was part of a negative whisper campaign from Harvey Weinstein as a major factor of why Jessica Chastain lost?
Yes. Do you remember when Whoopi Goldberg hosted and she's like, this negative campaigning has got to stop? I mean, she's making a joke of it when she's like, I got an email that said Frodo Baggins was an anti-Semite. Harvey was dirty. Harvey was dirty in every way possible, personal and business. We know this. Abso-fucking-lutely, he was behind it. He would have killed to win.
Mm-hmm.
He probably
That's literally what she said.
Yeah.
That's literally what J-Law said in their Globe speech. So,
yeah.
Whoever you had to kill.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if he specifically started it, but I am almost positive he stoked the flames at the very, very least. So,
yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Miles McHale said, did the Zero Dark 30 controversy blowback from Best Picture frontrunner to no director nominee hurt Chastain?
I mean, yes, but no. Because you will have those people in the Academy who will vote politically. We saw that with, what was it, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, or whatever, from a couple years ago, where that op-ed came out and it was like a super conservative, and he's like, my politics, I'm not voting for that. So yes, you will have people who will do that BS, and then you will have people who will actually vote on merit. So yes and no. I think it's directly in the middle. Yeah,
that's fair. I think, I mean, yeah, it was like debated in Congress and like denounced by senators. There was just so much negativity on it, unfortunately, that I don't think was fair. Do I think she still would have won if that never happened? I'm not entirely sure. I think the role is strong, but it is also very reserved at the same time. So tough to say. have to say.
Yeah.
Jack Mahane said Jessica Chastain had early momentum with Critics' Choice and Golden Globe drama. Do you think she lost momentum more because the role wasn't that showy or because of the controversy? Again, I think it was kind of both.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Agreed.
Liam said if Chastain wins here, what happens in 2021? Does Nicole Kidman get her second?
No, Olivia Colman rightfully wins her second.
For The Lost Daughter.
Yeah, which, by the way, people...
Great performance.
Where is that... I mean, it's Netflix, but where is that physical media?
I know.
I
know.
In that revisionist world, then, is Tammy Faye even nominated? Is my question. Did it ask that?
No.
Okay, so let's say no, and then and in a perfect world, Alana Haim gets in, and she wins it.
Well, I would love that.
Right.
I don't know if that would have happened, but
would have happened for me.
Okay.
Maybe
in your reality,
maybe Penelope wins. So,
otherwise known as Penelope.
Yes, that's a specific movie reference. If anyone gets that, good for you. I love you.
I think Penelope Cruz gets her win.
Yeah,
for Parallel Mothers.
Yeah.
I almost said Penelope Mothers. Wow. Yeah, we'll talk more about that on that episode.
Penelope Mothers.
Penelope is mother,
right?
To be clear,
right?
Yeah, movies at its own. Do you prefer Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30 or In the Eyes of Tammy Faye? Would you be more satisfied if she won the Oscar for Zero Dark 30? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's her best nomination. She's so good.
Correct.
Again, she's not bad in Tammy Faye, but there is a level of camp that is too much. In that Met Gala camp theme, she should have gone as Tammy Faye. That would have been perfect.
Yes. In like the full makeup at the end of the movie.
Singing the full Jesus song. Like that would have been, that's
absolutely.
Camp. That's staring camp in the eye.
Mm-hmm. The eyes of Tammy Faye, that is. Okay. Ayrton O'Brien said, why did the BAFTAs have to give me false hope for Madame Riva?
So BAFTAs then, yes. BAFTAs now, no. That would have been your front runner. Because again, this was at a time before 2020 when everything changed, where the Golden Globe winner for Best Drama was your front runner. Excuse me, because they had the biggest crossover. But I think it was such false hope, though, because it was so refreshing to see it came out of almost nowhere. And so we're like, oh my God, it was kind of like when Denzel won SAG. And we're like, oh my God, we have something going on. Like, yes, it's not going to be boring. So I think that false hope was worthy because it gave all of us some false hope. So you're not alone.
Yeah. Sometimes BAFTA actually steps outside of the narrative and gives the shine to another contender who isn't the front runner, and I wish they'd do it more.
Yeah, like speaking of Lady Gaga, like they did it with Joanna. What was her name? Joanna Scanlon. Yeah, I was like, oh, that was a goodie.
That whole lineup, no overlap with the Oscars
at all.
Incredible.
More of that.
Absolutely. Which will not happen because they've reverted back pretty much to their old rules, I believe. Something like that.
Dumb.
Yep. Declan Cashin said, do you think Emmanuelle Riva would stand a much better chance of winning with today's more diverse / international academy?
No. Because the academy still has this thing about women of a certain age. No. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And I think there's also something about the film, of course, that is so bleak, and I don't know if a widespread academy would vote for it. But, I mean, like, we've been through Sandra Hüller, another foreign language nominee who should have been considered more, but wasn't. So I don't know if just because the academy is more international now, that means it'll, give her more of a chance.
The fever you just gave me about thinking of this last year and Sandra Hüller being right there, but we want to
You're welcome.
Kevin, you're about to start another rant, but you
oh no,
but we literally can focus on someone who has one and someone who's a fucking wood plank through her entire movie, except for a 2-second scene where she cries at the goddamn steps. That's it. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet.
Great. Well, Andy Bayless said, I always think of David O. Russell's reaction to Emmanuelle Riva winning the BAFTA over Jennifer Lawrence when I think of this year. What is your favorite comfort win to look back on where your favorite won somewhere else but lost the Oscar?
Go ahead.
Well, I have one very much top of mind, which I love to go back to, which is Glenn Close winning the Golden Globe for The Wife which I think is such a sweet moment because she was not expecting that whatsoever, as you could see by her reaction. And she's tearing up on the stage and she talks about how she's been in the business for 45 years and all this lovely stuff. It was like an Oscar speech before a not Oscar speech. So yeah, that's one I always go back to because even if she did lose the Oscar in the end, at least we had that moment.
You know what, Kevin? I might agree with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I mean, I was Team Coleman this year. I've never shied away from that. But I think that's a really good answer because, like, it was so unexpected because that was supposed to be Lady Gaga's category.
Yes, it was.
So
that's right.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Glenn Close, the wife.
Making history, folks. We agreed on Glenn Close.
Right.
All right. Jimmy said, which Best Actress Oscar winner made you pull a David O. Russell watching Emmanuelle Riva winning the BAFTA face?
Michelle Yeoh.
That's too bad.
I mean,
because I love that performance, but okay.
She's fifth in that lineup. Well, not bad performance, but come on, let's be serious.
Well, ironically, I will say for me it was Olivia Colman winning. And not because I hate that performance, of course. I still think it's a great performance and very worthy of a win, but I had been led astray about where that race was going, and as a stan, I was in fact doing the David O. Russell horrified face when that happened.
I'm actually mad you didn't record yourself.
I know, I should have. Mr. Entertainment said, will a child performer ever be considered a frontrunner or win a lead acting category?
So one has been. Remember, Linda Blair was the front runner in 1973 for supporting.
But in lead.
But in lead,
yeah,
that hasn't happened. And I don't know if it can, but I would hope so, if the performance is worthy enough. I mean, in a perfect world, it would have been Jacob Tremblay for Room.
Agreed.
But, like, we're also overdue for... we haven't had one this decade yet, and it has been since Quvenzhané, so... I would like to see it at some point.
Yeah, I'm starting to have doubts that we'll even see a child actor nominated in either of the lead categories ever again because it has been this long. Not sure why that's happening, but yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it. For Jackie Cooper with Skippy, it was like, what, 80 years until Quvenzhané? So, like,
yeah,
another 80 maybe?
Yeah, if the Academy's still around.
Right.
Ben Roberts said, how did Quvenzhané Wallis get in over Marion Cotillard for Rust and Bone?
Voting. What? That's the answer, Kevin. Votes. The votes. The voting. Like, if there's no other way that anyone else gets in, you vote or you don't.
I think the better question is why did Quvenzhané Wallis get in, not how. I think it's just overall passion for Beasts that just carried her through. I think that's why.
Also that. Remember, Beasts overperformed. Where was Rust and Bone?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Both Patrick Rivers and Josh, they basically want to know if there's been another child performance since her that deserved to get nominated.
Well, I have a list.
Okay.
Jacob Tremblay, as said in Room, but also Dr. Sleep.
Oh, okay.
Like,
okay.
Short or not, that is the, outside of Rose the Hat, the best performance in that movie. It's haunting and terrifying as shit. Just this last year with Milo Mercado Grenier for Anatomy of a Fall.
Great.
Literally also should have won that shit. Like,
or won.
Yeah. And then, of course, my salt queen, Helena Zengel in News of the World, because I needed a reaction to her losing that Oscar so badly. I miss her. Where is she?
Yeah, I feel like, there's a very select group of people who understand what you're talking about there.
Yep.
But Helena Zengel's in News of the World when she was nominated, and it was like, COVID, everything. So everything was virtual. Every time we got to a box of her, she just was not having it.
I was like, more of this, please.
More of this energy. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with all those, especially Jacob Tremblay, who, quite frankly, should have won Best Actor in 2015 over Leonardo DiCaprio.
Absolutely.
He beats any other male performance that year.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Divided States of Eminar said, hot take, I think Naomi Watts is the clear winner here, with Riva being a close second. Both required physical and emotional mastery and range. Watts is asked to drown, parent, lie half of the movie, nearly die, etc. What stood in her way here and generally?
Quvenzhané Wallis, Emmanuelle Riva, Jessica Chastain, Jennifer Lawrence stood in her way.
Yep.
And the fact that, again, she stole an evil witch's magic beans. And I love this journey for this person. So with Sally Field's twink and this person, Naomi Watts has 2 votes. So good for her.
Yeah, you know?
No, if that's
know.
your favorite, genuinely, like, good for you. Like, I can be shady and try and be funny, but, like, I love that you have a favorite.
Yeah, I think these kinds of physical performances are just undervalued, unless there's, like, a strong personal narrative behind them, like Leo for The Revenant, for example, is one of those. So I think that's it. There's wasn't as much emotionally asked of her, I suppose. I mean, obviously she did have a lot of emotion within the film, but just compared to the material that everyone else got, it just doesn't really compare.
Right.
Ben Roberts said, should Watts have been supporting, and would she have had more of a chance of winning?
Yes and no.
I agree. Nothing to add. Christoph said, why did Naomi Watts get the nomination for a performance that required her to lie down and do very little, while Tom Holland, who does the actual heavy lifting here, was never even considered a long shot for Best Actor?
I think we have the same questions, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, verbatim, I think we said that same thing, like, earlier. So, Christoph, you're not alone there. I would like to know the same.
Yeah, I would guess that Tom Holland would have been campaign supporting.
Yeah.
And they'd have campaigned Ewan McGregor in lead. But yeah, I do think in a year where, like, we're recognizing Quvenzhané Wallis, that, like, there should have been consideration for Tom, too.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I hope you're ready for this. Jamie said, of Naomi Watts' performance, Reese Witherspoon wrote, not since I saw Meryl Streep's performance in Sophie's Choice have I been so moved by an actress's performance. It also reminded me of Sally Field's Norma Ray as well. Thoughts?
About whom? Wait,
about Naomi Watts in The Impossible.
I didn't see this question. When did you get this question? I did not see this. Oh my God.
Pretty late. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
She compared Naomi Watts to Sophie's Choice.
Yeah. Or Sally Field, too, apparently, in Norma Ray.
I'm genuinely shocked right now.
Yeah.
So she got 3 votes. Got it.
See?
We're growing here. We got momentum.
We got some momentum.
I'm genuinely, Kevin, I don't have words. And it's very hard to make me speechless.
Yeah. I'm sure it was impactful for her, and I don't want to lessen that experience. Definitely would not go quite that far, though. I also remember, like, and I know Andrea Riseborough is a performance you really liked and would have voted for, but, like, I remember Kate Winslet being like, this is one of the greatest performances ever. And so, I think sometimes actors can be prone to hyperbole at times, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. Was it campaign speak, or was it literally on the level of Sophie's Choice? We'll never know.
Yeah. Well, Owen Daly said, is Naomi Watts the actress with the most forgettable multiple nominations in Best Actress history?
I've thought about this, and I would say no to the average person. I would say yes, maybe to people like you and me, but hear me out. I think it would be Jenna Rollins, because who remembers Gloria? Everyone will remember, and I hate to say that, but everyone will remember, like, A Woman Under the Influence. It was a huge part in 70s zeitgeist, but no average person remembers Gloria.
True.
Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But I would say Jenna Rollins to the average person, but Naomi Watts to us. And maybe not even Naomi Watts to us, let's be honest.
No. Yeah. And they are still so relatively recent that I don't know if they're fully forgotten.
Right.
I would also offer up Vanessa Redgrave for this.
Okay.
Especially to the average person.
Yeah. Morgan, not great. I mean, Isadora, she is my winner that year.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's really super remembered. Mary Queen of Scots, definitely not.
Louise Rayner? I mean, Fritz keeps her memory alive, which I love, but do people actually remember her?
Yeah, I think if you've won, that you're semi-remembered by a handful of people like us.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking in general.
Right.
Like, I don't know if Vanessa Redgrave really has too many memorable lead nominations. And like the Bostonians, definitely not.
Yeah. Actually,
I also know this might... Okay.
Yeah.
This might be sacrilegious a little bit, but I think some of Jessica Lange's lead nominations aren't super memorable.
I love her, but God, what a terrible group of nominations. Like,
okay,
and I give her
her
the win for Blue Sky. I think she's the best of those 5. But like, oh my God, did she?
Yeah.
What?
Country Music Box, like, I don't know, Sweet Dreams.
Yeah, that's a rough patch for Jessica. So,
well, Carrie Bradshaw said, "Will Naomi Watts ever win an Oscar?"
Probably not. I don't. Wow. I genuinely, I'm not trying to be shady. I'm like, no. Look, she doesn't. Most of the things she does either gets canceled, a la that Game of Thrones show, or other film projects she's attached to, or they just bomb, or she's in a year where there's a clear front runner, quote unquote. No, I don't.
Well, I think there is still a possibility. I think she has a lot of friends and a lot of respect in the industry, and it's just about being in the right film, I think. Because obviously she's not like a Meryl Streep type, or even like a Cate Blanchett or Nicole Kidman. Like, it's been 12 years since this nomination, and she hasn't really even come close since. So, I don't know. It could be a random supporting turn that we're not expecting, that she's just undeniable in for whatever reason. But I don't know about lead, personally. So,
we shall see.
All right. Yes.
We shall see.
Well, Captain Jimmy D has a fun one for us. In 2012, the fan favorite series American Horror Story premiered, which is not actually true. It was 2011, but that's fine. Recast these American Horror Story ladies in the roles of this year's nominees: Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson, Tessa Farmiga, Connie Britton, and Frances Conroy.
I'm going to say right off the bat, Jessica Lange in Zero Dark 30, because I think that would be terrifying.
That is what I would say too. Yep.
Oh my God, Kevin. Call the press today, man.
Swapping out the Jessicas and put in Lange.
Right. Yep. I would like to see Tessa Farmiga in The Impossible. Frances Conroy in Silver Linings. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I'm just
sure.
The way she screams Balenciaga in Coven, I'm just imagining how she would scream. You know what I mean?
In
like
that diner scene.
Right. Yeah. Connie Britton would be in Amour, which leaves who?
Sarah Paulson.
Yep, that tracks. Sarah Paulson for Beast of Southern Wild. Yep.
Okay.
I'm the man! Just like she's. Yep,
I can picture it now.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a slightly different combination there that I came up with, but I like that. I said Sarah Paulson in Silver Linings Playbook. I think she could have fun with that. Tessa Farmiga I put in Beasts of the Southern Wild just because she was the youngest and it felt like the least stretch. Connie Britton I put in The Impossible. Sorry to Connie to have to put her through that, but I could see her doing that very well. And I put Frances Conroy in Amour.
I like.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Jessica on the same one though.
We did. Okay, well, this is from, let's see, Joey Gentile.
Oh, nice guy.
Interesting.
Nice guy.
Heard of him.
Yeah.
Cast these 2010s Oscar talents and Karen Black.
Yes.
In these roles. We got Haley Steinfeld, Bernice Bejo, Jalitza Aparicio, and Alicia Vikander.
Oh my goodness, what would be your
great
mix?
Question.
What would be yours?
Here's what I came up with from this wonderful group of ladies. Haley Steinfeld now in Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
Bernice Bejo in The Impossible.
Okay.
Jalitza Aparicio, I mean, I guess Beasts of the Southern Wild, but like I could also see her in like 50 years doing Amour. That could happen.
Okay.
Alicia Vikander in Zero Dark 30. And Karen Black in Amour, which would be devastating, but
Ugh.
effective.
Yeah. Okay, so we agree with
What answer do you have to your own question?
Right.
Let's hear it.
We agree with Berenice in The Impossible, because
Okay.
just like the Oscars, she was swept away and never heard from again. That
was a good one.
Thank you. I've got Haley Steinfeld in Zero Dark 30.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've got Alicia Vikander in Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Sure.
Because why not?
Yeah.
I put Jalicia in Amour, and then I put Karen Black in Silver Linings Playbook. The one thing Karen did really well was comedy, and it was never utilized enough, so I would like to see her there.
Yes. This is also where I can springboard off of that with Sophia Simonello's question, who said, which of these characters would you most like to see Karen Black play?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think she would be really great, though, as Tiffany, like opposite Jack Nicholson as Pat in like the early 70s version of Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes. Who plays Jackie Weaver's role, though, in the early 70s version?
Shelley Winters.
Oh my God, yes. You just gave Andrew Carden a hard on.
I know.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, great. Chels said obligatory Survivor questions. Who wins? Who dominates challenges? Best social game? Best strategy? Who would you want on your tribe? Who goes on to appear on every other reality franchise?
Okay, so I feel like Naomi Watts' Maria does really well. If she could survive all of that, she could survive on Survivor. I feel like
my take on that is that she is medically evacuated.
That's what I was gonna say, though. Until she gets to the
no.
Until she gets to like the final challenge where it's like the fire building and all of a sudden it explodes in her face, so she has to leave. Like,
oh no,
that's her luck.
Yeah, I could see it.
But I see Emmanuelle Riva just dying because she.
Yeah, she might be evacuated too, unfortunately.
So we have 2 evacuees.
That's tough.
But that one gets evacuated in a body bag.
Oof.
Tiffany, everyone gets really pissed off at Tiffany because she won't stop screaming and everyone finds her really annoying. So it comes between Maya and Hush Puppy, with Hush Puppy winning in an upset surprise.
I thought of this as well in terms of I could see Tiffany maybe in that mix, maybe, and pulling off like a good like knockout final tribal speech like she did with Robert De Niro, and maybe winning. But I could see it now, Maya getting to the end and being so relentless as she gets her way to the end, but then like at the end people are like, well, I don't want to vote for her. And then she loses.
And
but
the show,
the alternative is Hush Puppy,
right? And at the show, at the reunion, when Jeff announces, the camera pans in on Maya and it's just a tear. It's the single tear.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes.
But listen, I could say, we're not casting children on Survivor yet. So Hush Puppy would not be invited. But like in 15 years, if Hush Puppy was like, I want to be on Survivor, listen, after the events of Beasts of the Southern Wild, I think she could hack it. I think she could do really good.
Yeah. The character is now 21, technically, for its actress. So there you go.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Celluloid Siren said, Marion Cotillard was nominated all the major precursors for Rust and Bone. Presuming she was 6th, would you have nominated her? And if so, who would you take out to put her in?
I would have nominated her. I would have nominated her and taken out Naomi Watts.
Yeah. Heather Stewart said, what happened to Marion Cotillard in Rust and Bone? A masterful, heartbreaking performance. That was one of my favorites of the year. Was she 6th? Probably. She was nominated everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
And spoiler, I mean, what happened to her in the movie is that she loses her legs. But yeah, I think she would be 6th. So.
I would guess that at least, like, at the nomination stage, like, who kicked her out? Probably, I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but I think Quvenzhané Wallis probably knocked her out in terms of the nomination stage.
Oh, I would agree.
When it came to winning, it might have been a different ranking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree because, again, like, well, Moore showed up at least at BAFTA, but, like, Beast came out of nowhere and Beast then overperformed.
Right.
So I would agree,
Exactly.
nomination for sure.
Yeah. Andrew Carden said, why do you think Helen Mirren missed for Hitchcock after landing at Globe, SAG, and BAFTA?
Because since 2009, Helen Mirren is a precursor darling. And
Yes, that's true.
truly. And I just don't feel like Hitchcock was truly loved as much as everything else, which is weird considering The Impossible is here.
True.
So I just think, again, it comes down to voting, and there's really no other way to explain it.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have seen Hitchcock. I vaguely remember her performance, but I can't really speak to it with too much authority now because I just don't really remember it very much.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's on me or on her or what the film, but yeah, it seems a little strange that she missed out, but maybe it was just a matter of not getting those number one votes. Maybe she was third or fourth on a lot of people's ballots, but didn't have passion like Quvenzhané or Emmanuelle or I guess Naomi.
Frances Fisher did not show up for her.
Yeah, Frances Fisher feels like she campaigned for Naomi Watts. Like there's something about it that just screams that to me.
Yep. Agreed.
Greg Cramine said Rachel Weisz won the New York Film Critics Circle Award and was nominated for a Globe and a few other awards. Do you think she was close to being nominated, or was Deep Blue Sea too quiet of a film?
Here's the thing. I've never seen this movie, and every time I hear about it, I was like, she's not in that shark movie. That's not her. Because there was that Deep Blue... Literally.
Same, honestly.
Literally. I'm like, the shark movie? I'm like, what? So I think that was the Globes being the Globes.
Yeah, too quiet.
Yeah.
Maybe top 10, but yeah. I don't know if enough people saw it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Eric Maxwell Brun said, should Blake Lively have been nominated for uttering the line, I have orgasms, he has wargasms?
Okay.
As stated in Savages.
Savages. I know people hate that movie. I love Savages, but I would not nominate Blake Lively for that. If anything, I would nominate Aaron Taylor Johnson's ass in that movie.
Sure.
That's about
supporting actor. You know, sometimes a well-delivered line can be enough to get you a nomination. Sadly, that did not happen for Miss Lively. Okay. Last question. Jeffrey Kerr, had Game Change debuted in theaters instead of HBO, would Julianne Moore have won the Oscar?
Absolutely. Yes. I fully agree that and I always said Game Change should have gone theatrical. That would have been hers. She swept that. That was an undeniable sweep with everything. Absolutely, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think she would have had a great shot, a very showy performance, and I think would have made a very easy, dramatic alternative to Jennifer Lawrence. Like you said, she swept every single TV award. So I think the same could have happened if it were released in theaters. Well, let's get to our final segment where we will reveal who we think was the runner-up of this Best Actress race. Joey, who do you think it was?
So if anyone remembers the 75 episode, or it was maybe a different episode, where I also brought the clip of Karen saying how she was friends with a counter at Price Waterhouse. You can believe me if you don't, whatever. That's not me to determine your thing or your mind. But this was also the last year that I got the order of what happened due to that friend at Price Waterhouse. And the runner-up this year was Emmanuelle Riva. She came in second, and Lawrence, I kind of wish she did win this just to get that another reaction from David O. Russell. But yes, Emmanuelle Riva was, according to this Price Waterhouse counter, the runner-up.
Okay. And even if I didn't know that, I think I would have assumed that to begin with. So that confirms my estimation as well. That late stage BAFTA surge, I think there was clear a passion there. And I would imagine a lot of people discovering Amour once it got to phase 2 and people being like, oh my God, who is this incredible actress? This totally bowled me over. So yeah, I think it's tempting to say it was Jessica Chastain just because she had that Critics' Choice Golden Globe. The problem was the controversy just got in the way and it was losing so much steam and it peaked so early that, yeah, I think she sadly stumbled towards the end there. But yeah, Emmanuelle Riva.
Which is funny too, because there's clips of it still you can find on YouTube where speaking of Vanessa Redgrave, she's courting Emmanuelle Riva into the press and really going to bat for her. So Emmanuelle Riva, she was her that was her Frances Fisher this year, was Vanessa. So yeah, there was 100%. That was Emmanuelle Riva's with the run up there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, who would you have voted for from this lineup?
Quvenzhané Wallis. I mean, that would have been my winner. Still my winner. I'm just blown over every time I see this movie. And I really hope that she has a very fruitful career going forward. I want to see someone like, I want to see any actress of color in general in this position where they're like Saoirse Ronan or Olivia Colman and they're just booked and busy. And a lot of that is the industry, what is being made, what is being made to offer. But I really, really want to see Quvenzhané Wallis not only make an Oscar return one day, but like now that she's 18, she's making her own decisions on her career and her projects. Like William Morris really works his ass off to get her some scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with wanting that comeback, wanting her to succeed on the promise of this nomination. This is where I get to the point where I can say that like I am still battling between two with respect to a third as well. It is between, for me, Emmanuelle Riva and Jessica Chastain. Yeah. Ultimately, those are the two. So that's kind of what I went in with, and now I'm still trying to figure it out. I think just in terms of emotional impact, that tends to be what I favor more often than not in terms of head versus heart, that sort of thing. And for that reason, I am going to say I would have voted for Emmanuelle Riva and joined my friends in Britain in trying to get her a win. It's one of those performances that really has stayed with me ever since I first saw it. And I mean, it's a lot of the same reasons you even said for like Quvenzhané Wallis, of just like, it just leaves that impact for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was your alternate third that you were messing with?
Quvenzhané.
Hey, she made it to the top 3 for you. I'm proud.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
Yeah.
Kevin, look at us.
Yeah, look at us.
Look at us.
We did it. I know.
You are, I've said this before. I'm on the record. I'll say it again. Like, you need to be so proud of yourself, dude. Like, you're so close to the end and it's insane. And you deserve a giant break after this. And hopefully you come back with supporting actress, because I will see you at 1970 for Karen Black's episode. And I'll see you again at 2012 for Jackie Weaver's. But whatever you do next, man, I wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I really do appreciate it. And I've loved getting to know you and all kinds of people through this experience. That has been the most enjoyable part of it, is just getting to chat for 3+ hours about Oscars and actresses and all kinds of nerdy shit that I never thought I could bond with. Yep. for my own peers. So, I appreciate the love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find more of you on the internet?
Oh God, you really want that?
Someone does. I imagine. I don't know who.
Right. Yeah. Or who knows? You could still find me on Twitter and Instagram if you'd like at Joey Gentile 1992. Hopefully you'll be able to find me soon on this, well, at least the festival circuit with my It's Hard to Be a Saint, which is going to be my debut film for my production company. And then finally, after 4 years of auditioning and sending in tapes and live vocals and recorded vocals and yada, 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 makeup, blah, 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 rumor has it that finally the long overdue delayed Fiddler on the Roof is getting made through Amazon MGMUA, which yours truly has been auditioning for Tevye this whole time and would give my left kidney, right kidney, eyeball, and balls to play that role. So hopefully one day it happens, and soon, and I will be singing If I Were a Rich Man on the big screen for all of you. So we'll see.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, I know there's a lot happening. Dude, I mean, it's been wild. It's like 4 years. I think I've officially beaten Vivian Lee for the longest casting.
Yeah. And I know,
thing in history.
You and her have long been beefing, so
I will
take that crown.
That family.
Taking that crown.
Yeah. Taking that crown. Thank you, Kevin, so much for having me.
Yes. Thank you all so much for listening. You could find me on all platforms at Kevin_Jacobson. Shows at Oscar Runner Up on Twitter, Instagram, and the runner-up is rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you liked what you heard, go to patreon.com/andtherunnerup is, where you can hear a whole bunch of bonus episodes. And in 2 weeks, we'll be breaking down the Best Actress lineup of 2013, where the nominees were Amy Adams in American Hustle, Cate Blanchett in Blue Jasmine, Sandra Bullock in Gravity, Judi Dench in Philomena, and Meryl Streep in August Osage County, with the winner being Cate Blanchett. So with that, thanks again, Joey.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
And I will bid you all adieu.